मस्ती मत करो यार, चलो होमवर्क निकालो।
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Akansha, Shaurya, Swastika. Turn your videos on. Take out your homework. क्या हुआ? I had allotted places ना for you people. I had given you places ना. Ma'am, we don't remember the places. तू ज़्यादा स्मार्ट हो रहा है आज। हम लोग सच में स्मार्ट में थोड़ी इंग्लिश में भी दिखाना। जिसको अपनी प्लेसेस याद है चलो, फिर जिसको एमनीशिया है उसको मैं बताऊंगी। तू यहीं बैठ। मेरा है भी। Passing behind, then the last child, then give it to the last child there. Okay. What was the homework? MOV. So some of the questions had to be done in the volume itself, and some of the questions had to be done in your tuition book. Correct? दोनों खोल के रखो अंका में. All in the tuition book. Okay. Follow. Shaurya, show me. Akanksha, Swastika, Parth, Jasleen, MOV Act 1, Scene 1, 2 and 3. इसके अलावा कुछ ऐसे होगा?
Yeah, ma'am. ऐसे. For those who do not have the module.
तू बोली मत. Comprehension passage, I have noticed your volume has only one comprehension practice passage. So that is definitely not sufficient. I think all of you have total English at home. Yes? Yes. Parth Chaturvedi, you have total English at home?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Next time onwards, you have to start getting your total English. I'll be giving comprehension homework from there. Practice of comprehension will be taken from total English because every chapter index में जो आप देखोगे, it starts with a comprehension passage. Anyone has total in English here? Take it out. So let me explain to you. This is your total English. So you have over here chapter 8 on the first page and then up till chapter 15. So what happens is they open up with the explanation of grammar and then they have some written practice. Then it goes to a test paper. Test paper which has written questions 1 and 2 and then question 4 is comprehension. So I'm writing it as homework. Please write it on the last page of your tuition book. What is the date today? 10? Oh, yes, ma'am. Tuesday? Yes, ma'am. So your first homework is from Total English, page number 22. Kushagra likho. Question number 4, which is a comprehension passage, has to be done for homework. The book has to be brought next time so that you can show me that you have done. There is place over here for you to do the answers. You will do it in the book itself. Pucho beta. Okay, take out.
Ma'am, that side board is not visible.
कुछ करना पड़ता है ना?
You like right, you cannot see the right side.
Total English, I'm dictating. Total English, Page number 22, question 4. Page number 22, question 4 is for homework. So those of you who don't have this book, if you have another edition, the idea is same. Chapter 1 will have some grammar, some composition, practice. After that, it will have a test paper. The test paper will have some composition, then it will have one comprehension question. Page 22 पे नहीं होगा तो 20 पे होगा, 22 पे नहीं होगा तो 24 पे होगा, पर एक आपको comprehension passage दिखेगा, वो आपको करना है. You have to do it in the book itself. जगह दी हुई है यहाँ पर. आपकी total English जो भी edition है, this is the method they follow, so you will have it there. Do it diligently. It is for you to be able to score in your exam for the comprehension passage. तो यहाँ पर चीटिंग करके कोई मतलब ही नहीं है कि रितु टीचर को लगेगा कि मैंने किया, एक्चुअली तो मैंने ये कॉपी किया. क्या फायदा? अच्छा कर लो ना यार. कॉम्प्रिहेंशन पैसेज एक 2 पैराग्राफ है, उसके ऊपर 4 क्वेश्चन है, लिख दो उसके आंसर जैसे आपको ठीक लग रहा है.
टोटल इंग्लिश है नहीं
तो ले लो, खरीद लो. एक कितने की बुक है? 150 की बुक है हमारे पास. इतनी मोटी बुक क्या नहीं है? इतने पैसे नहीं है. अभी इतनी मोटी बुक है टोटल इंग्लिश की. ठीक है, तो उसमें फर्स्ट जो कॉम्प्रिहेंशन पैसेज है वो होमवर्क पे करो. जिसके पास बुक नहीं है खरीद लो. इट इज ICSE प्रैक्टिस. फाइन. ओके, नाउ यू ओपन योर मॉड्यूल एंड कमिंग टू चेक. नोटबुक, सॉरी नोटबुक. बैग अंदर करो तुम. So we are doing this for the purpose of we don't want any contamination. I want to protect you. Delhi में 18,000 cases हो गए. You want to study, you want to take the opportunity. Bombay is yet not infected. But I don't know how much news get infected. So once you do this, then mask भी पहनना जरूरी है because then you have created that distance from each other. ठीक है? Open your homework, beta. Not got the volume, please go and get it right now. Anyone else still not got the volume?
Mama asked
You asked Subjit, ma'am?
Yes.
All of you have the module? Part Shaurya. ले लो ना बेटा.
Ma'am, my mom has called UT. They are telling
Ma'am,
that they
I
don't
asked.
have the language book, so they'll give it to us when they have the language book also.
Yeah, once that comes, you start working on that. Ask Surjit ma'am to send you the PDF. She will mail the PDF format to you, so it will be with you in an online on the screen.
Okay.
Physical book जब भी मिलेगी, but you have to start working this. अभी ये Act 1 पूरा खत्म हो गया, Act 2 अभी start हो जाएगा, then backlog create हो जाएगा. Open. तेरी मम्मी ने परमिशन दी है तेरे को भटके मारने की. Yes, I know. Starting it right now. तो अभी श्री गणेश का रहा है तुझे को.
हाँ, कोर्स वर्क भी बहुत ज़्यादा है.
होमवर्क डन.
हम
बेटे ये टाइम fair speechless messages. Fair meaning lovely, containing love and affection. Speechless means without uttering a word. It is aankh ka ishara. So through her eyes, she has displayed her emotions to Bassanio that she has an affinity for him. She likes him. She admires him. So just writing fair, speechless messages for that answer is not sufficient. You'll have to explain it. Your answer must run into 5 lines. नहीं तो मैं यहाँ पे खड़े रह के एमओबी आपको कितना भी समझाती रहूं, आप कितना भी एमओबी को पढ़ते रहो, अनलेस यू राइट इन योर आंसर, टीचर विल नॉट गिव यू मार्क्स. Marks are not allotted according to the number of hours you have given to that textbook. Marks are allotted according to what you have written in your answer booklet. अगर आप सिर्फ 4 words ही लिखोगे तो टीचर हाफ मार्क ही देगी. To get 2 marks in 10th standard, you require to write 5 lines. 5 lines. अगर आपको दिख रहा है कि आपको इसका आंसर सिर्फ 4 words ही दिख रहा है, don't dive into the answer. उधर पहले फुटेज खाओ, 1 line of introduction दो, talk about Portia, talk about Bassanio, then come to the answer. No doubt, fair, speechless messages is your keyword, you underline that. But बाकी आपका 5 line का मैटर होना चाहिए, नहीं तो कैसे मार्क्स मिलेगा? और 90% तो फिर नहीं आएगा. फिर यूटी आने का फायदा क्या है? 70% तो स्कूल अटेंड करके भी मिल ही जाता. कोई रॉन्ग आंसर थोड़ी लिखता है इंग्लिश में. लिखो, डोंट इवन शो मी 1 line आंसर्स. Never write only answers in your textbook. Big mistake. The whole idea of writing these answers is that before the exam, you have something to refer to. You are preparing a guide for yourself. You are preparing a module for yourself. जिसको आप पढ़ोगे, कीवर्ड देखोगे, आपको फटाक से मेमोरी में आ जाएगा because you have written it yourself. But unless you write the question there, ब्रेन उसको उस क्वेश्चन के आंसर की तरह रजिस्टर नहीं करेगा, सिर्फ एक बैकग्राउंड डेटा की तरह रजिस्टर करेगा. वी डोंट वांट दैट. वी वांट योर आईज टू सी द क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर एंड कीवर्ड, क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर एंड कीवर्ड. तब जाके आप एग्जाम में बिना टाइम वेस्ट किए क्वेश्चन का तो आपको आंसर आएगा दिमाग में. So that exercise is lost if you are not writing the question in the question book. Question लिखना ही है, अभी लिखो. ऊपर जो एक लाइन छोड़ी है वहां हमारी ना बोला वहां क्वेश्चन करके फिर आऊंगी. और रिस्पांस Children, your answer always has to be in the past tense. एमओवी जो है वो हो चुका है, वो एक मूवी है जिसको आप देख चुके हो. अभी आप बता रहे हो कि मूवी में ऐसा हुआ था, नॉवेल में ऐसा हुआ था. नॉट पोर्शिया लिव्स इन बेलमोंट, लिव्ड इन बेलमोंट. पूरे अपने आंसर चेंज कर, पास्ट टेंस में कर उसको. एवरीथिंग इज इन द सिंपल पास्ट टेंस. अगर आपका टाइमलाइन सिंपल पास्ट टेंस में चेंज हो रहा है और आप बता रहे हो कि शी हैड ऑलरेडी मेट बसानियो, तो आप पास्ट के पास्ट में जा रहे हो. I'm telling you about Portia, I'm telling you that she had met Bassanio earlier date. तब perfect tense आएगा, past perfect tense, क्योंकि आपका timeline past के भी past में जा रहा है. Otherwise simple past tense answer में बहुत directly follow होगा. Same thing implies for your compositions. For your composition, you either choose to write it in the present tense or you choose to write it in the past tense. कि ऐसा हुआ था या ऐसा हुआ. So you have to stick to the tense. Same thing with your comprehension passages. Do not change the tense in between. Teacher looks for this mistake. कि बच्चे ये mistake करते हैं, अगर ये mistake हुआ है तो मैं यहाँ पे 1 mark कट कर दूं. English teacher को literally आपके पेपर में mistake ढूंढनी पड़ती है. We are only checking the paper to see कहाँ पर mistake है. 4 spelling mistakes, 1 mark cut. 2 grammatical mistake, 1 mark cut. Tense change हुआ, 1 mark cut. वर्ड रिपीट हुआ, वो 1-2 लाइन के अंदर भले सेंटेंस अलग है, ब्यूटीफुल ब्यूटीफुल 2 टाइम आ गया, मार्क्स कट, मार्क डाउन. वी आर ओनली लुकिंग फॉर दैट. रॉन्ग आंसर तो साइंस और एसएसटी में होता है, मैथ्स में होता है, इंग्लिश में रॉन्ग आंसर होता ही नहीं है. कोई नहीं बोलेगा कि पोर्शिया वाज इन लव विद शाइलॉक, कोई बोलेगा? कोई नहीं बोलेगा कि एंटोनियो वांटेड टू मैरी नेरिसा, नहीं, वो शाइलॉक की बेटी जेसिका। नोबडी इज गोइंग टू मेक दिस मिस्टेक्स। सब लोग सही लिखते हैं पर आंसर शॉर्ट है, 1 मार्क कट करो। क्योंकि हमको क्या पूछता है पता है मॉडरेटर, किस हिसाब से आपने इस बच्चे को 92 दिया है? क्या यहाँ पर आपको ये मिस्टेक नहीं दिखी? यहाँ 1 मार्क नहीं कट करना था? आपने ₹1,00,000 खाया है क्या ये बच्चे को 92 देने के लिए? बस द टीचर इज ओनली चेकिंग द पेपर कि हर मॉडरेटर शुड नॉट क्वेश्चन हर कि तुमने ये मिस्टेक छोड़ी। तो मिस्टेक आपको करनी नहीं है, सही तो आप कर ही रहे हो। ये 5-6 मिस्टेक्स है, ये करनी नहीं है। समझ में आ रहा है आकांक्षा? शो मी योर होमवर्क।
Yes.
बैकग्राउंड को बंद करना पड़ेगा, इसको पिन कर।
It's like your screen is shading the whole thing.
Okay, answers are very short, Akanksha. 5 lines. I'm saying you have written 1.5 line. Can you add 1 line to your answers? Passage लिखना जरूरी नहीं. Don't write the passage. That is not important. Question and answer. बस. Swastika show. Okay, Akanksha.
Ma'am, I have a few questions, doubt in a few questions.
You get your volume down. Volume.
I have done the questions. I'm
थोड़ा
saying
आस्ते बोलो.
I have a
थोड़ा
doubt in a few.
थोड़ा आस्ते बोलो. Talk softly.
Ma'am, I have the volume and I have done the question answers. I have a doubt in a few. And the old ones were also pending, so I have done those in the volume itself. These I have done in the notebook.
Answers are very short.
Short.
1.5 line आंसर है, देखो आंसर 2 देखो, आंसर 2 1.5 lines. Why you have left that blank over there? Which question should come there?
Ma'am, fourth one. What response did Bassanio receive from Portia? Ma'am,
I just explained the answer.
Ma'am, you were there, not in front of the mic. That's why I couldn't hear you clearly.
The answer is pair speechless messages. But
Oh.
before that, you have to give 1 or 2 line of introduction. Then mention your pair speechless messages. Then explain what pair speechless messages is. Understood? Can
Yes.
you write it now? Can you write it now?
Yes, I'll write it and I'll show you.
Start.
Yes.
Homework. Again, very short answers, no questions written. Start writing the questions.
Okay,
And
ma'am.
answer 4 you have also left. I have explained how to write it. You write it now. कौन बातें कर रहा है?
No, ma'am, it's answer 5.
What is the question?
Ma'am, once.
What is the question? Question 5 there.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what attraction does Portia offers the suitors?
हो गया? Everybody has signed? Okay. Question 5 is what attraction does Portia offer the suitors? Basically क्वेश्चन का मतलब क्या है कि सूटर्स वहां पे आ रहे हैं, कैस्केट चूज कर रहे हैं, इतनी मेहनत कर रहे हैं आने में जाने में, कोई वहां पे डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट तो था नहीं, घोड़े पे ऊंट पे बैठ के आ रहे हैं वो लोग, तो फॉर व्हाट उनका प्राइस क्या है? 1 minute, लेट हिम आंसर. यस पार्थ.
Ma'am, he will get Portia.
Get Portia, get to marry Portia. Get Portia क्या होता है?
Get to marry
बताइए.
Portia.
हाँ. लिखो शौर्य.
Okay, ma'am.
वो
Yeah.
पोर्शिया नहीं होगा. क्या वो ही करता रहेगा जिंदगी भर? कैस्केट चूज करके वो थोड़ी करेगा, शादी करेगा. तो we are talking about the suitors. मोरक्को ये वो उसकी बात हो रही है. Who is left now? शौर्य.
Ma'am, I don't have the module for literature, but I've written the essays.
अच्छा ठीक है, ओके.
Ma'am, should I show?
ऐसे आगे कमेंट चेक रेट आई चेकिंग है. हो गया सबका सिग्नेचर? तो ये करने का नहीं ये माइंड का कट करना सीधा आंसर में डायल मत कर ऐसे है ना दैट इज की इधर फर्स्ट act 1 scene 1 has three passages I think नहीं अपने आंसर 5 लाइन के होने चाहिए तो एक लाइन का आंसर तो 4 लाइन आठ आधा लाइन का आंसर तो 4 लाइन आठ एक मात्र को क्वेश्चन एक 10 स्टैंडर्ड है भाई तुम तो मार्क्स को मत देखो तुम अपना 5 लाइन का आंसर प्रिपेयर करो राइट नाउ वी आर प्रिपेयरिंग आंसर्स करेक्ट हम मॉड्यूल प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं उसमें अगर एग्जाम में कुछ भी नहीं आएगा तो हम 2 ही लाइन लिख कर आएंगे वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू वेस्ट टाइम बट राइट नाउ जब हम प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं हम 5 लाइंस के आंसर्स प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं क्योंकि वी कैन नॉट नाउ सेपरेटली स्टार्ट प्रिपेयरिंग आंसर्स फॉर 4 लाइन 4 मार्क्स का भी क्वेश्चन आता है ना यही सेम क्वेश्चन व्हाट रिवॉर्ड वाज ऑफर्ड टू द सूटर्स कैन कम एज अ 4 मार्क क्वेश्चन तब तुम थोड़ी 5 लाइन लिखोगे तब तुमको 15 लाइन लिखना है तो ये सब जो तुमने बाकी के आंसर्स में लिखा है ना वो सब इधर ऐड हो जाएगा सब फादर के बिल के बारे में बात होगी पोर्शिया का डिस्गस्ट ओवर द कैस्केट के बारे में बात होगी नेरिसा का उसको कोक्सिंग का बात होगा फिर शूटर्स का बात होगा उसके बाद मेन मुद्दे पे आओगे कि दे विल गेट टू मैरी हर कि अपना आंसर तो उतना ही है बट व्हाट वी हैव टू ऐड डेटा समझ रहे हो मेरे पास एक बैंगन ही अगर मेरे पास एक बैंगन ही है घर में so I cannot give you only bangan is not going to be sufficient for all. So what I will do? I will make dal also. I will make raita also. I will make rice also. I will make roti also. तो सबको पूरेगा फिर. That is exactly what you have to do. Salad also. That is what you have to do. You have only this much. You add so that everybody gets food. Understanding? Chalo. Now let's start taking the essays. Shaurya, show. I given one essay or two essays. What was the topic?
Ma'am, you have given 3 essays.
Last time I gave technology, I think. Technology, curse or boom. Then
No.
pollution.
Ma'am, examination wala.
Examination is last third question. ठीक है, you're showing me now first
Examination wala.
examination. Start reading. I want silence. I want to hear it.
Education. Ma'am, should I read the topic as well?
Yes.
Examination is a phobia, not an assessment of a child's performance. Explain your point with suitable illustration. Education is the nation's best defense. For a nation to reach the pinnacle of success, the people of the country must be educated. Education means not only to read, write, or understand literally, but to also differentiate between the good or the bad. Examination is a test of how much a person has learned, but the way it is conducted has become a phobia for many kids all around the world. Examination is a one-day process. Since we can never judge a person in one glance, similarly, we can never judge a child based on his talent, knowledge, potential, and performance in just one test. We can never know the mental condition of a child or a person based on his one-day test result. This needs to be done with a rigorous process of knowledge or expertise. Examination have put a lot of pressure on students these days, and the amount of pressure students get on their profession, getting admission in top schools and colleges. This is evident by a student studying hard and having a lot of sleepless nights before the examination and becomes unfit for appearing to the exam. The Indian system of examination is not a complete examination and puts a lot of pressure on students, which affects their overall performance. Exams can be made suitable for a child by asking a child his knowledge, ability to learn, and what he finds interesting, etc. This will not only reform examination but also increase our child's knowledge. After all, it is our responsibility on how we educate our kids. Examination was created in the past to assess the child's performance, but modern methods of examination has made it a mere fear factor. Stopping the examination from being conducting is not at all the solution. Till the government takes strict action in this direction, examination will remain a phobia and not an assessment of child's performance.
How many words is this, Shaurya?
If I have not counted the words, but it is like 2.5 pages.
No, how many words it is? Count करके मुझे बताओ.
Okay.
Because you have to hit a target of 255.
Ma'am, you had mentioned 405 words in that question.
In the question it says 405 words.
Ma'am, someone had
So
written it on
400
the board.
Sorry, 405 words. I only wrote it. I made a mistake. So you have to hit a target of 405 words. मुझे जरा words count करके बताओ. Because when we are doing practice over and over again, then we will write 405 words. अपने आप आपका exam में 405 words आएगा. Yeah. Akanksha, ready with your essay?
Yes, ma'am, but actually I've not done the last one. I've done only 2 essays.
Education you have done?
Yes, ma'am.
Start.
Done the first one also, the carbon footprint one. We have the topic right?
First one is education. First one is pollution.
Yes, ma'am. Eco-friendly.
Eco-friendly. Okay. Right now we are checking education. You start reading that. So Shaurya, you have not written eco-friendly?
No, ma'am. I have only written 2. The examination one, and you feel sad and disgusted as you find so many children.
वाला question यहाँ पे लिख दे क्योंकि उसके पास module तो है नहीं. ये from here it is visible from here. So you write it here. He is writing the eco-friendly question on the board so that you can do it for homework. Akanksha, start.
Yes, ma'am. Education is one of the most important factors to determine the growth and development of nation. Education not only means to read, write, to understand the literary works, but also to understand the concepts and working on it. Examination is a method to analyze a child's performance and guiding them towards the right path. But the way they are being conducted now, it has turned them to be a phobia for children. Exams are conducted in a one-day test. Students prepare from them for months. As he is the most popular saying that one piece of paper cannot decide child's future. We can never judge a person in one glance. Similarly, we cannot judge the potential, talent, and knowledge of a child in one test. We never know the child's mental and physical condition during the day of a pairing test. Exams put a lot of pressure on students. Nowadays, the competition among students has tremendously increased. This also leads to peer pressure among children. Thus, children stay in a fear of performing, due to which they adopt techniques or methods of cheating so that they can be saved from the scolding of parents and teachers. Examinations in a way to test the knowledge, understanding of a child. Thus, we should find a ways for conducting exams in which the abilities of a child can be checked, and examination should be considered by children as a normal test and not as a phobia.
Words. The essay is not 405 words. The data is good, but there is some importance attached to the number of words. That is why it is given as a part of the question, correct? So you have to have that many words. Part.
Yes, ma'am.
You've done the question on education?
No, ma'am.
Are you why?
Ma'am, I forgot to write the essays. I have done only.
I will homework blackboard पे लिख रही हूँ third standard की टीचर की तरह. उसके बाद भी forget है तो घर आना पड़ेगा.
Sorry.
Ma'am, I was completing the literature homework that you gave, and when you gave this, that time I didn't have my module. I skipped it actually. I'll do it.
I had made somebody write the question on the blackboard last time, right?
Yes, ma'am. I know. I was completing Heart of the Tree also because that was pending mine.
I am giving you 1 week's time to do 4-5 homeworks. So daily basis अगर आप 1 घंटा भी इंग्लिश को दोगे ना तो आपका होमवर्क हो जाएगा और उतना देना पड़ेगा. You have to literally in 10th standard give 1 hour to every subject. And the moment you do your first exam, whether you call it unit test or periodic test one or whatever, you will get to know कि आपका weakest कौन सा है subject. Then you start giving that subject 2 hours. आज की डेट में आपके 5 सब्जेक्ट्स हैं, आप 5 आवर्स दे रहे हो, 1 hour to each subject on a daily basis. आज की डेट में आपका यहाँ पे इंग्लिश हो गया, घर जाके इंग्लिश करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बट टुमारो इंग्लिश का पीरियड नहीं है, आप 1 hour इंग्लिश को दोगे, थर्सडे को भी दोगे, फ्राइडे को भी दोगे, सैटरडे को भी दोगे, संडे को भी दोगे और मंडे को भी दोगे. उतने में होमवर्क हो जाएगा. मैं उस हिसाब से ही होमवर्क दे रही हूँ. Then the moment you do your unit test 1, you will get to know आपको कौन से सब्जेक्ट में लीस्ट मार्क्स मिले. भले वो लीस्ट मार्क्स 92% हो, बाकी के सब्जेक्ट में 97 है, वो सब्जेक्ट को आपको 2 घंटा देना स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा. The moment unit test is over, your work hours will go from 5 hours to 6 hours because one subject is going to ask for an extra 1 hour. That is if you want 90 plus. All this gyan is if you want 90 plus. If you don't want 90 plus, relax it, play PUBG, watch your serials, no problem, take it easy. But if you want 90 and I think that is your effort, सुबह 6 बजे उठ के यहाँ पे 7 बजे पहुंचे हो, तो अगर आपको 90 चाहिए, यहाँ पर 7 बजे आने की वजह से टीचर मार्क्स नहीं देगी कि भैया ये बच्चा पूरा साल 6 बजे उठा है, उसके लिए मार्क्स नहीं मिलेगा. पेपर में वो काम होना चाहिए और उसको लिए होने के लिए you will have to give 1 hour per subject. Is it too much to ask? स्कूल चलते चलते, कोचिंग चलते चलते इतना टाइम देना है, इसीलिए तो 10th स्टैंडर्ड के बच्चे सुबह 5 बजे उठ के स्कूल से पहले 2 घंटा मैथ्स को दे देते हैं, क्योंकि फिर आने के बाद मैथ्स के लिए टाइम नहीं है. इसीलिए स्कूल और कोचिंग के बीच में 1 घंटा हिंदी इंग्लिश को दे दो, क्योंकि कोचिंग के बाद नहीं टाइम है. कोचिंग से जाने के बाद, डिनर खाने के बाद साइंस एंड एसएसटी को 2 घंटा दे दो. दिस इज द मेथड. पूरा साल के लिए इतना फॉलो करोगे, मैं लिख के देती हूँ 90 आएगा, पर इतना फॉलो नहीं करोगे 80 आएगा, 70 आएगा. आकाश एंड तेज तुमको एडमिशन भी नहीं देंगे, बोलेंगे यू आर नॉट फिट फॉर आईआईटी, क्योंकि तब फिर तुमको 5 घंटे से ज्यादा देना है. आज की डेट में अपनी पढ़ाई को कोचिंग और स्कूल के अलावा 5 घंटे दे सकते हो, तो कल की डेट में नीट एंड आईआईटी कर सकते हो. अदरवाइज इट इज अ वेस्ट ऑफ lakhs of rupees of your father. किसी पेड़ से झाड़ के नहीं लाते, वो रोज काम करते हैं तब जाके लाख रुपए जमा होता है. So don't waste your father's time there. If you are not up to it, do architecture, do commerce, get into finance, do arts, become a teacher. मैंने नहीं किया है कि मैं भूखा नहीं मर रही हूँ, आई एम अ टीचर, मेरा घर फिर भी चल रहा है. चूज. टीचर को, पेरेंट्स को, खुद को भी पागल बनाने से अच्छा चूज कर लो. आईआईटी नीट करना है, डॉक्टर इंजीनियर बनना है, एमबीए करना है, तो भाई इट टेक्स वर्क. या तो ये 5 साल 40 साल की उम्र से पहले काम कर लो, या फिर झक मार के 40 साल की उम्र के बाद जिंदगी भर काम करना पड़ेगा. Either it is 5 years of work now or it is 25 years of work after your education is complete, क्योंकि तुमको काम ही वैसा मिलेगा. धक्के खाओगे, उसके बाद भी नैनो नहीं खरीद पाओगे, और आज की डेट में काम कर लोगे तो तब आराम भी करोगे और BMW भी खरीद लोगे. सिंपल स्टैटिस्टिक्स. इतना लॉजिक तो तुम लोग को समझ में आता है, यू ग्रोन अप. चलो, व्हाट आर वी प्लानिंग टू डू टुडे? एक्ट 2. यस मैम. एमओपी खोलो.
मैम, my word count is 400 words.
मैंने बोला ना शॉर्ट है बेटा.
Only 5 words.
शॉर्ट तो शॉर्ट है, 50 हो या 55 हो, आगे से 405. ठीक है. स्वास्तिका. Act 2 scene 1.
Act 2 Scene 1.
Page number 29.
Shall I start reading? In contrast to the business-like mood of Act 1, this act begins with much visual and verbal pomp. Visually, the Prince of Morocco and Portia enter from opposite sides of the stage to a flourish of comets, each followed by a train of attendants. Morocco then opens the dialogue with a proud reference to his dark skin and the rich, regular, sonorous poetry which Shakespeare gives him to speak suggests that the prince possesses a large, imposing physical presence. because we have already listened to Portia blithely dismiss the other suitors who have already appeared at Belmont so far. Here her greeting has both courtesy and respect. Yourself, renowned prince, then stood as fair as any corner I have looked on yet for my affection. Since there are 3 cascades for Portia's suitors to choose from, there will therefore be 3 occasions in which suitors will attempt the test of the cascades to win Portia in marriage. Thus the 3 contestants are subtly contrasted. The first, Morocco, is intensely physical. He is a warrior. He speaks of his red blood, the power of his scimitar, and of the courage that can mock the lion when he roars for prey. Morocco is a straightforward soldier prince. He is rightly self-assured and is contrasted to the Prince of Aragon in scene 9 of this act, whose excessive pride is concerned with lineage and position. Both of these suitors will fail, and although the audience knows or suspects this, since the play is a romantic comedy, it must end happily with Bassanio making the right choice and winning Portia. This knowledge does not interfere with the thrill of the dramatic anticipation as Morocco first and later Aragon make their choices. Rationally, we may know how a story ends, but this does not prevent our imaginative excitement in watching the unfolding of events.
Very good, Swastika. You have woken everybody up. Now, I'm going to ask you to write this, so listen carefully first. जैसे स्टेशन पे ट्रेन रुकती है ना, सब लोग हसल हसल करने लगते हैं. वर्क स्टार्ट. You are writing so good. Society है ये. There is a purpose of each scene, of each act of any play. The purpose of this act 2 scene 1 is to introduce the suitors to the audience. We will always say audience, we will not say reader, because it's a play that was meant to be enacted on the stage. Okay. So here we are introduced to the Prince of Morocco, Prince of Aragon. We notice that Portia in conversation with Nerissa is always criticizing each suitor. The audience gets the clear idea that she has a preference in her mind who is Bassanio. So, अब ये पार्ट आपको लिखना नहीं है, ये पार्ट मैं आपको बता रही हूँ. Just like in a Hindi movie, you know that when the hero and the villain are fighting with each other, we know the hero is going to win, but yet we watch the fight for a thrill, correct? So same thing is happening here. We somehow know that Bassanio is going to be the person who chooses the correct cascade, but nonetheless we want to see what choice Morocco makes. We are curious to know what are the commodities inside the cascade, because the cascade has 3 things. Anyone who can tell me? 3 things of curiosity? Yes. No, not like that.
Ma'am, shall I?
No, not like that. Yes, Swastika?
Ma'am, like the lead cascade contains Portia's.
No, not like that. Not like that. I'm not talking about that. You're getting into details. No. Each cascade contains 3 things. One is an inscription on the cascade. So we want to know कि तीनों के ऊपर क्या लिखा है.
An inscription, a scroll, and a thing which shows like whether it's.
Yeah, so there is an inscription on the cascade. There is a scroll inside. So we want to know what is written on each of the cascades. भैया वो आदमी मरने से पहले कुछ devise करके गया puzzle. There is a curiosity in the audience. So how Shakespeare keeps his audience entrapped, engaged, wanting to know, on the edge of their seats by these things. That is why he's a classical writer. Writers today aspire to see what Shakespeare has done, critically analyze his work so that they can also become good writers. When you're writing story, yeah, you have to try to do that so that the teacher wants to read कि आगे क्या होने वाला है, तो ऐसा हो गया, you know. So inscription, scroll, and one object inside. The correct cascade will contain the portrait of Portia. We know that, but the other 2 will contain what? We know the answer right now. We read, but जब पता नहीं था तब तो we want to know ना. So this is the motive of this, the function that this scene contributes to the plot. Got it? Right. Got it, Akanksha? Right.
Yes,
Parth, are you writing? Parth. मुझे पार्थ का शक्ल दिखा.
Yes, ma'am, I'm writing.
तो फर्स्ट टाइम में आंसर दिया करो भाई. कौन सा एग्जाम्पल? नहीं. Very clearly I said this is not for you to write, this is for you to understand. जो मैंने बोला है ना उसमें से जो याद आ रहा है लिखते जा, बिना बात किए, नहीं तो माइंड डिस्टर्ब हो जाता है. Like I'm
Ma'am, I cannot see the right hand side board. Can you tilt the camera? No, ma'am, still cannot see the entire part. Yeah, ma'am, now. Yes, ma'am, done.
so I should write this over here next time. Just मुझे याद दिला देना.
Yes, ma'am.
इस इतना जल्दी कितना बोला मैंने. बोला. There are basically 3 points to what you're writing. One is how the Shakespeare entraps the audience into being curious about what is happening, although we know the end. Second point is we know, the audience knows that Bassanio is going to win, yet we are curious to know the wrong choices that Organ and Morocco are going to make. And the third point is that the audience is curious to know what lies, what three things lie inside each casket: the inscription, the scroll, and the object. ये तीन point आने चाहिए अभी जो मैं बोल रही हूँ उसमें.
We can't mention three things.
Inscription, scroll, and object. नहीं हम critical लिख रहे हैं, हम audience थोड़ी ना है. We are critically analyzing the writing. Chakra done?
Yes, ma'am.
Start reading short example passage 1. There are two things I want to tell you before Chakra. Firstly, this is 9th standard syllabus already done with you extensively. That's why we are doing it in this manner, wherein I'm not actually reading the text, correct? Otherwise, it will take too long to finish the entire MOV. Once we get to the 10th standard portion, this will not be the treatment for MOV. Then we will be reading from the text and bisecting, dissecting everything. Firstly, I want you to understand this. Secondly, I think I have told you, मुझे अपनी book देना, that I want you to draw a 1.5 centimeter line in your exam sheet. I explained that concept to you. Right hand margin, यही आपका maths के लिए 1.5 inch का rough work column हो जाएगा. This, now that your vacations have started, I want you to do for the entire English tuition book. In fact, you should be doing it for all your subjects का tuition books. Okay? Also, I want you to write page number and start creating an index for yourself over here कि मेरा MOV Act 1 Scene 1 का जो मैंने question answers लिखा है, that is on page number 27. जो मैंने eco-friendly के ऊपर essay लिखा है, that is on page number 17. Because any time at the time of exam you want to refer, you should know कि मुझे मैंने जो वो लिखा था वो कहाँ पर है, आप ढूंढते नहीं रह सकते हो. You cannot afford to waste time. Come and read all example 1. Yes, ना नहीं है ना फिर मार्जिन बनाते ना
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Solve exercise passage 1. Read the passage and answer the following questions. Morocco. Mislike me not for my complexion, the shadowed livery of the burnished sun, to whom I am a neighbor and near bred. Bring the fairest creature northward born, where feeblest fire scars for the icicles, and let us make incision for your love, to prove whose blood is reddest, his or mine. I tell thee, lady, this aspect of mine hath feared the valiant by my love, I swear. The best regarded virgins of our clime have loved it too. I would not change this hue, except to shield your thoughts, my gentle queen. In term of choice, I am not solely led by nice direction of a maiden size. Besides, the lottery of my destiny bars me the right of voluntary choosing. But if my father had not scanted me and hedged me by his will to yield myself, his wife who weds me by that means, I told you, yourself renowned prince, then stood as fair. What idea would you form of the Prince of Morocco's character from the speech here quoted? The Prince of Morocco seems to be very conscious of his qualities as a man of exceptional strength and physique, as also of his holding a high position in life. He also believes that some of the best maidens of his own country are his admirers, and that even some among the bravest soldiers have felt afraid of his warlike appearance. What light does Portia's speech quoted here throw on her character? Portia is evidently very to the memory of her father. She wishes to marry only in accordance with the terms of her late father's will, and not according to her own choice. Her father's will has imposed a very hard condition on her, but she is not prepared to obey the will, which makes it obligatory for her to marry only the man who chooses the right casket, even if she might not like that man otherwise. Give the meaning of and hedged me by his wit, and put restrictions upon me by his wisdom. Hedge means put limits to Portia's freedom or impose conditions upon her freedom of action. The word wit here means wisdom. Who ultimately comes out as the winner in this contest and how? Bassanio proves to be a winner in this contest. He chooses the right casket by arguing the outward show should not be relied upon, and that external decoration generally misleads human beings into making all kinds of mistakes. He rejects the gold casket because gold is something gaudy and may therefore prove to be deceptive. And he rejects the silver casket because silver is a medium of monetary transactions among human beings and nothing more. He chooses a lead casket which holds up the threat rather than a temptation. Portia's father was really wise in prescribing the test of the caskets as a means of winning Portia. We do not think that Portia's father was really wise in prescribing the test of the caskets for Portia's suitors, although an eminent critic has argued that it is character which determines a man's choice in a matter like this. We feel that the lottery of the caskets, like any other lottery, success in a lottery is a matter of pure chance.
Very good, Rahul.
But what's the meaning of lottery?
Right, too bright. Two tables I wanted to prepare. जैसे हम साइंस में या एसएसटी में टेबल बनाते हैं ऐसे हम एमओवी का बनाएंगे. One table is very simple. You have your 3 cascades. Then you have inscription. तो उसमें क्या लिखा था हर एक कैस्केट के आगे. Then you have scroll. उसमें क्या लिखा था हर एक कैस्केट में. Then you have object. What was the object contained in all the 3 cascades? Clear about this table? Any doubts? No. Any doubts? Second table. The suitors. We have encountered Morocco and Aragon as yet. Okay? What is the criticism that Portia faces? Which is the cascade that they choose? What is the reason for choosing that cascade? हर एक ने choice करने से पहले ये बताया कि oh lead I cannot choose you because of da da da. Oh silver I choose you because of da da da. वो पूरा चाहिए. उसने जो नहीं choose किया क्यों नहीं choose किया वो, and उसने जो choose किया वो choose किया क्यों? Are you getting this? Are you confused?
No.
Clear? Yes, ma'am. 2 tables to be prepared for MOV very clearly in your English tuition book. आपको एग्जाम से पहले ये टेबल देखकर ही जाना है, तो उसको उस तरीके से बनाना. कम बेटा. नहीं, that will be 2 different columns. प्रिंस ऑफ मोरक्को ने अगर लेड नहीं चूज किया तो क्यों नहीं चूज किया, एंड सिल्वर चूज किया तो क्यों चूज किया, ये 2 डिफरेंट कॉलम्स हो गए ना बेटा.
In terms of choice, I am not slowly led by nice direction of a maiden's eyes. Beside the lottery of my destiny, bars me the right of voluntary choosing. But if my father had not scanded me and hedged me by his will, I yield myself. His wife wins me by that means, I told you, yourself, then stood as fair as any corner I have looked on yet for my affection. The like do above lines throw on the character of Portia. From the above mentioned speech of Portia's, she appears to be a loving daughter who is deeply attached to the memory of her father. She is firm in marrying only in accordance with the terms of her late father's will. She does not want to marry according to her own choice. Explain the meaning of sentence. Nice direction of a maiden's eyes. Nice direction of a maiden's eyes means the fastidious guidance of a girl who is to choose her life partner. Portia cannot be guided exclusively by the assist of her maiden's eyes in her choice of a husband. What will has Portia's father imposed on her? Portia's father has left a will which relates to her marriage. Her father's will has imposed a very hard condition on her. It makes obligatory for her to marry only the man who chooses the right casket. She would not refuse to marry the man who makes the right choice of a casket, even if she does not like that man. What is the meaning of fate? The lottery of my destiny. Lottery actually means something depending upon the chance and not upon voluntary choice. By the phrase, the lottery of my destiny, Portia means the test by which her fate is to be decided. It prevents her from choosing a husband of her own.
What does obligatory means? Obligatory, it is used in the term, you have to see it as a complete phrase, show me where it is. Here, it makes it obligatory for her to marry. Almost like a compulsion. Go through the 3 passages which you have to do for homework. तीन passages है बे, नींद में है क्या? Which is used for non-living things. Living things के लिए who? माइंड में रीड करो. What is the next thing we are doing today? Measure to अभी तक क्या कर रहे थे? तू सो रहा था क्या? Passage 2, second question. What is the answer? Passage 2, second answer. सुनो ध्यान से.
Are people referred by Hercules was very powerful and had pride and the surprise of being strong, and Lichas was a servant. Even though being strong, Lichas defeated him in the game of chess, which proves, and Morocco being very strong also got defeated in choosing the caskets. Right.
The only thing missing in your answer is legendary characters. Like we have Ram and Hanuman, and we attribute certain qualities to. So Hercules and Lichas and so many others are mentioned over here, which are legendary characters. We cannot prove their existence. We cannot prove the existence of Ram, correct? They say in time to come, Gandhi will be considered like this, whether he is a mythological character created by the Indians or he did really exist. They say that Gandhi will also become like that. So you have to include that in your answer. Any other question? Uska servant. And Mercedes. So what are we doing from treasure trove today? Nobody found my treasure trove. My textbook is missing. किसी को मिला नहीं. Big loss. उसमें 99,000 रुपीस का लिखा हुआ था, इतने years का निचोड़. बोला तू कुछ? Which chapter? The little man's were many.
We are skipping, right? Syllabus.
Yeah, you said you would skip the 9th syllabus. And then मेरा कहना ये था, any chapter that has been done with you in your school, let's do that first because it will feature in your next test. In 1 month's time, you are facing a test.
A horse and two goats.
A horse and two goats.
Yes, ma'am. Horse and two goats.
Horse and two goats. Horse and two goats is the story of a poor, simple Indian rural man. The chapter opens with him trying to urge his wife to give him something else to eat rather than the drumsticks ka bhaji. Why drumsticks ka bhaji is easy for them? Because next to their hut there's a drumstick tree. तो रोज वहां से तोड़ के वही वो मसाले में छौंक कर उसको दे देती है. So she says, if you're so interested in having delicacies, no, then go to the shop and get something. So when he goes to the shop, the reader gets to know कि बंदे की कोई औकात ही नहीं है. बंदा जाके गटर पे बैठ जाता है and बार बार करता है so that the shopkeeper will notice him. And the shopkeeper in a very derogatory manner says, are you ill today? Don't sit at my shop and start coughing like this whole day. And he says, nahi, I was wondering if you will give me some dal or something, money I'll pay you next time. Tu pehle apna pehle ka paisa bharo. Typical Indian movie scene. And he's able to get nothing from there. And then he asks him his age and he says, I may be 50. He doesn't know his age. Then he tries to tell him that I have a daughter who will send me money. And the shopkeeper says, do you have a daughter? You don't have any kids. So we are getting the impression of this guy from the beginning of the chapter. He bahut bichara hai. इसकी वाइफ भी इसको कूटती है, शब इसको कूटता है, तो बेचारा अपने दो बकरियों को लेकर he goes on so that they will eat grass and he will come back. And he tells his wife says, now you will get nothing, no tiffin also, no breakfast also, ऐसा ही तू जा, तू शाम को आएगा तब मैं कुछ बना के रखूंगी. तो बेचारा भूखा ही निकल जाता है without any tiffin. And two goats. So उसमें भी he is going in a very muffled manner because he doesn't want anybody to call him कि इधर आ, let's talk. So he is in a depressed state of existing, depressed state of existence. बंदा उधर जाता है, उसका daily routine, he sits at the pedestal of a horse. So this is your horse, suppose. ये उसकी टांगे हैं. तो ये वो एक pedestal पे horse को बनाते हैं ना, एक स्टैंड होता है ना, बेस. अच्छा हॉर्स, ठीक है. सो दिस इज पेस्टल चिल्ड्रन, दैट इज व्हाट आई वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड. अभी ये बोलेगा मुझे बोर्ड में लिखना है, दिख रहा है उतना लिखता है. तो वो जाके यहाँ पे पेडेस्ट्रियन पे बैठ जाता है और उसकी दो बकरियां दे आर ईटिंग ग्रास. उतने में ही इज next to the way, so he sees the cars going, just like when we are feeling sad we go and sit in the balcony ना, ऐसे वो जाके बैठ जाता है उधर. So the cars are going. तो उसमें एक open jeep जाती है. Open jeep is a very foreigner driven car concept. This is that, you know, India has just got independence sort of time. So there are a lot of foreigners who cross the highway. Bypass होता है ना, village को bypass करके हम highway से निकलते हैं, that way. So one khaki, क्या बोलते तुम लोग इसको, पैडल पुशर बोलते थे, तो क्या बोलते हैं जो यहाँ तक होता है, केप्रीज, हम लोग पैडल पुशर. So केप्रीज, he's wearing khaki capris, so very foreigner man. He gets down. ये आदमी इतना simpleton है, just because he sees that man wearing khaki, he thinks ये पुलिस होगा. He will catch hold of me. He will arrest me, put me in jail, मुझे दबोचेगा. तो वो बंदा आके कुछ भी बोल रहा है, ये बोल रहा है, अरे वो मर्डर हुआ था ना, मैं उसमें इन्वॉल्व नहीं था, हमारा पूरा विलेज इन्वॉल्व नहीं था, वो उस विलेज का बात था, वो टैगलेन ट्री के नीचे बॉडी मिला था ना, we didn't even go to see it, I was at home. वो अपनी दलील दे रहा है. So it's kind of comic, but in the comedy, the audience, no, now the reader, now not audience, this was not created to be enacted, created to be read. So the reader is a feeling of sympathy is aroused in the reader towards Munni. This guy's name is Munni. The naam bhi bichare ka aisa hai. So somewhere there is a hint of that he belongs to one of those, you know, very rural places. बिल्कुल भी नहीं. So one of those dilapidated states of India which is not progressing, Orissa types, you know, doing badly. Famine ka mention hai, so there is a hint of Govandi is in India. We are talking about in Mumbai. We are talking about one state. Poverty. I thought Govandi. And Govandi ke aadmi to they are chapters. This is a simple thing. Much traveled you are. So the conversation between the foreigner and Mr. Munni is a thing of comic, yet it arouses sympathy in the reader for
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 Mun.
for Munni. We are feeling sorry for him. Anyway, the thing is that the foreigner wants to buy this horse. Foreigner एक अजब ही बुद्धू था. सड़क के किनारे बना हुआ हॉर्स उस आदमी को थोड़ी बिलोंग करता है, भाई गवर्नमेंट को बिलोंग. मतलब जैसे होता है ना, मैं खरीद ही नहीं रहा हूँ, मैं बेच ही नहीं रहा हूँ. क्या ताजमहल एक था, एक जोक था ना, मैं बेच ही नहीं रहा हूँ, मैं खरीद ही नहीं रहा हूँ. क्या ताजमहल. By the way, there is a person really who is selling plots on the moon.
Yes.
People are buying it.
Elon Musk.
And then क्या है Vatican में?
Elon Musk.
And American.
नासा ने कोई वर्क तो उसने क्लेम कर लिया.
Claim कर लिया, and they are saying how legit is this? So they are saying because there is no rule about this as yet. Okay, who owns moon? Whether the government of the America owns moon or what? Who owns moon के बारे में कुछ नहीं है. तो वो बेच रहा है और जो खरीद रहा है वो लैंड उसका हो गया. Because there is no written rule about this that you cannot buy or sell land on the moon. Trillionaire बनने वाला है. और जो लोग खरीद रहे हैं, I don't know whether यहाँ पर कोई ऐसा न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब फटेगा और वो लोग मून पे चले जाएंगे.
मून पे बेस बनाएंगे.
So anyway, हाँ, so there are ways and means ना भाई.
Elon Musk.
If you can have a goldfish in your house, living in the water in your house, so your whole house is not water. You can have an oxygen pond on the moon where you are living. बड़ी सोचो, तो जनरेट करने के लिए वहां पे कुछ लगाओ ना कि ऑक्सीजन जनरेट हो रहा है रेगुलरली. जितना आप कंज्यूम कर रहे हो उससे ज्यादा जनरेट हो रहा है. Anyway, so the foreigner is buying the horse. Munni is not understanding that he wants to buy the horse, but through the conversation between Munni and the foreigner to buy the horse, we get a lot of information about the foreigner. That is the only source of information that we are getting about him, because he talks about his wife, he talks about his house, he talks about what he's going to do with the house, he talks about how he's going to transfer it. So we are getting a lot of information about the foreigner. Basically, it's a comedy. Then हम end में देखेंगे कि क्या होगा, because पैसा भी है, goat भी है. By the way, he used to have 40 goats at once upon a time. पर वो कैसे 40 से 2 हो गए, मुन्नी को खुद नहीं पता. What is it? Famine क्या होता है? Famine होता है. That's not the reason why the goats died. Very clearly they said how they became 40 to 2 he did not realize. मतलब एक एक करके यहाँ तो स्टोरी हो गई है, यहाँ भाग गई है, क्या मर गई है, उनको खुद नहीं पता है. चलो let's start reading the chapter. Page number 52. Yellow t-shirt come. I'm sorry children, I call you by your t-shirt, but I really don't know. एक पता है क्या था, मैं in my building no. So recently this lady told us कि ये ना starting में मतलब 10-12 years ago when I came, बहुत प्यार से hi sweetie, hi darling करके बात करती थी. No, she really likes me and all. बाद में I got to know her. She's bad with names. She doesn't remember that I'm Rupa. तो मेरे को hi sweetie. I don't know her name. तो ये yellow t-shirt दिखा चल रहा है. Bad बेटा.
Of the 700,000 villages dotting the map of India, Ritu was probably the tiniest, indicated on the district survey map by microscopic dot. But its size did not prevent it giving itself by the grandiose name Ritu, which meant in Tamil coronet or crown on the brow of his subcontinent.
Not brow, brow.
Brow.
Anything what you find different, please underline, then we will discuss it.
The village consisted of less than 30 houses, only one of them built with brick and cement, painted brilliant yellow and blue all over the gorgeous carvings of gods and on its balustrade. It was known as the big house. The other houses distributed in 4 streets were generally of bamboo, thatch, straw, mud and other unspecified material. Munni's was the last house in the 4th street, beyond which stretched the fields. In prosperous days, Munni owned a flock of 40 sheep and goats and sailed for ever driving a flock to the highway a couple of miles away. There he would sit on the pedestal of a clay statue of a horse while his cattle grazed around. He carried a crook at the end of the bamboo pole and snipped foliage from the avenue trees to feed his flock. He also gathered faggots and dry sticks, bundled and carried them for fuel at the sunset. His wife lit the domestic fire at dawn, boiled water in a mud pot, threw into him a handful of millet flour, added salt, and gave him his first nourishment for the day. When he started out, she would put him in his hand a packed lunch. Once again, the same milk cooked into a little ball, which he could swallow with a raw onion at midday. His fortunes had descended gradually unnoticed. From flock of 40 which he drove into a pen at night, his stock had now come down to 2 goats which were third into the trunk of a drumstick tree which grew in front of his hut and from which occasionally Munni could shake down drumsticks. The morning he got 6, he carried the sense of triumph. Although no one could say precisely who owned the tree, it was because he lived in its shadow. His wife said, if he were content with the drumstick, leaves alone, I boil and salt some for you. Oh, I'm tired of eating those leaves. I have craving to chew the drumsticks out of sauce, I'll tell you. You have only 4 teeth in your jaw, but your craving is for big things. All right, get the stuff from the sauce and I'll prepare it for you. After all, next year you may not be alive asking for anything, but first get me all the stuff, including a measure of rice or millet, and I'll satisfy your holy craving. Our store is empty today. Dal, chili, curry leaves, mustard, coriander, oil, and large potato. Go out and get of these. He repeated the list after her in order not to miss any item and walked off to the shop in the 3rd street. Munni sat patiently on an upthird packing case below and platform of the shop. The shopman paid no attention to him. Munni kept clearing his throat, coughing and sneezing until the shopman could not stand it anymore and demanded, what ails you? You will fly off the seat into the gutter if you sneeze so hard, young man. Munni laughed inordinately in order to please the shopman, and at being called young man, this completely won the shopman over. He liked his sense of humor to be appreciated. By this humoring the shopman, Munni could always ask 1 or 2 items of food, promising repayment later. Some days the shopman was in good mood and gave him, and sometimes he would lose his temper and suddenly bark at Munni for daring to ask for credit. The shopman said, if you could have fined 5 rupees and quarter, you will have paid off an ascent debt. How much have you got now? I will pay you everything on the first of the next month, as always. And whom do you expect to rob by then? Muni felt caught and mumbled, my daughter has sent word that she will be sending me money. Have your daughter? Sneered the shopman. As he sending you money, for what purpose may I know? Birthday, 50th birthday, said Muni quietly. Birthday, how old are you? Muni repeated weakly, not sure of itself. 50, he always calculated his age from the time of great famine when he stood as high as the parapet around the village. When who could calculate such things accurately nowadays with so many famines occurring? The shopman felt encouraged when others customers stood around to watch and comment. More likely you are 70, he said to Mundi. You also forget that you mentioned a birthday 5 weeks ago when you wanted castor oil for your holy bath. At this, Munni austerely rose and moved off. He told his wife that Skanda would not give me anything, so go out and sell the drumsticks of what they are worth. He flung himself down in a corner, recovered from the fatigue of the visit to his shop. His wife said, "You are getting no sauce today, or nothing else. I can't find anything to give you to eat. Fast till the evening, I'll do you good. Take the goats and and to be gone now. She cried and added, "Don't come back before the sun is down." He knew that if he obeyed her, she would conjure up some food for him in the evening. Only he must be careful not to argue and irritate her. Her temper was undependable in the morning but improved by the evening time. She was sure to go out and work, grind corn in the big house, keep a scrub somewhere, and earn enough to buy foodstuff and keep a dinner ready for him in the evening. Unleashing the goats from the drumstick tree, Muni started out, driving them ahead and uttering weird cries from the time to time in order to urge them on. He passed through the village with his head bowed in the thought. He did not want to look at anyone or be accosted. A couple of cronies laughing in the temple corridor hailed him, but he ignored their call. The shopman had said that he was 70. At 70, one only waited to be summoned by God. When he was dead, what would his wife do? They had lived in each other's company since they were children. He has been told on the day of wedding that he was 10 years old and she was 8. Progeny none. Perhaps a large progeny would brought him the blessing of the gods. Only on the outskirts did he lift his head and look up. He urged and bullied the goat until they meandered along to its foot and of the horse statue on the edge of the village. He sat on its pedestal for the rest of the day. The advantage of this was that he could watch the highway and see the lorries and buses passing through the hills, and gave it him a sense belonging to a larger world. The pedestal of the statue was broad enough for him to move around, and the sun traveled up and westward. Or he could also crouch under the belly of horse for shade.
Okay. Why? इंग्लिश का 3 घंटे का लेक्चर है और तुम गिन के 3 बुक्स में ला सकते हो तो नया मेरे भाई 9 रुपए का बुक है क्यों क्या नहीं देख रहा 10 रुपए डेली में देना 9 रुपए Just buy a new book, children. The treatment is going to be one scene of MOB, one written, one grammar, one chapter. We are going to cover these 4 things in 3 hours. You cannot afford not to get your treasure trove. You cannot afford not to get your total English or your volumes. ये 5 books आपको carry करनी है. Tuition book, total English, volume 1. वॉल्यूम 2 ट्रेजर ट्रोव 5 बुक्स उठाना डिफिकल्ट है तो यहीं छोड़ के जाओ लॉकर देती हूँ इधर दे दो तो होमवर्क कौन करेगा दादाजी अंडरस्टैंडिंग और एनी डिफिकल्टी एनीवेयर जवाब दो मिसिंग है यहाँ पर आकांक्षा कहाँ है Any difficulties अभी तक? Anything you didn't got? Parapet. कहाँ पर आया सेंटेंस बताओ? शॉपकीपर का? She always calculated age from the time of the great famine when student आया था. तो पैरापिट इज छज्जा जिसको बोलते हैं खिड़की के ऊपर एक जो शेड बनाया जाता है ताकि बारिश अंदर नहीं आए तो अपना हाइट पैरापिट से कंपेयर करके वो अपना एज कैलकुलेट करता था कि तब अकॉर्डिंगली फैमिन आया था तब मैं पैरापिट जितना था तो अब मैं इतना हो गया हूँ तो मैं 4 साल बड़ा हो गया हूँ फिर लाइक दैट पैरापिट छज्जा एनीथिंग एल्स यू डिड नॉट अंडरस्टैंड पेज नंबर 52 his fortunes had declined gradually unnoticed from a flock of 40 which he drove into a pen at night. His stock had now come down to 2 goats. There was a time when he used to have 40 goats. Put a box on 40 goats, page number 52. And page number 53, put a box on 2 goats. So how many goats has he lost? 28. Why did he sell the milk of a He is a simple, foolish man. और बकरी की गाय बकरी के दूध का क्या बनता है फ्रांस में चीज बनता है यहाँ पर क्या होता है बकरी के दूध से Any other difficulties? Unobtrusively. At this, unobtrusively rose and moved out. Unobtrusively, page number 54, fifth last slide, without arguing with his opponent, unobtrusively.
What is the meaning to carry the cloak at the end of the family? Carry the cloak at the end of the family.
So, in the rural areas, what they do is they take a bamboo stick, दिख रहा blackboard,
And that is simple and
and they attach a sickle. This is a metal knife. So, ऐसे डंडी है और उसके आगे एक चाकू लगा हुआ है, तो यहाँ पे जो भी foliage, leaves, उसको crops में foliage create a path. Shall we continue? Akanksha, any difficulties?
No, ma'am, no doubts.
Shaurya, Parth, Swastika.
No, ma'am.
The horse was nearly life-sized, molded out of clay, baked, burnt, and brightly colored, and reared its head proudly, prancing its forelegs in the air and flourishing its tail in a loop. Beside the horse stood a warrior with his kite-like mustachios, bulging eyes, and aquiline nose. The horse itself was said to have been as white as Dhobi was sheet, and had on its back a cover of pure brocade of red and black lace, matching the multicolored sash around the waist of the warrior. But none in the village remembered the splendor, as no one noticed its existence. Even Munni, who spent all his waking hours at its foot, never bothered to look up. It was untouched even by the young vandals of the village, who gauged tree trunks with knives and tried to topple off milestones and inscribed lewd designs on all walls. This statue had been closer to the population of the village at one time, when the spot bordered the village. Munni sat on the foot of the statue, watching his two goats graze in the red soil among the cactus and lantana bushes. He looked at the sun. It had tilted westward, no doubt, but it was not the time yet to go back home. If he went too early, his wife would have no food for him. Also, he must give her time to cool off her temper and feel sympathetic, and then she would scrounge and manage to get some food. He noticed now a new sort of vehicle coming down at full speed. It looked like both a motor car and a bus. He used to be enthused by the novelty of such spectacles, but of late work was going on at the source of the river, on the mountain, and an assortment of people and traffic went past him, and he took it all casually and described to his wife. Late in the day, everything he saw. Today, while he observed the yellow vehicle coming down, he was wondering how to describe it related to his wife when it sputtered and stopped in front of him. A red-faced foreigner who had been driving got down and went around it, stooping, looking, and poking under the vehicle. Then he straightened himself up, looked up at the dashboard, stared in Muni's direction, and approached him. Excuse me, is there a gas station nearby, or do I have to wait until another car comes? He suddenly looked up at the clay horse and cried, marvelous. Without completing his sentence, Muni felt he should get up and run away, and cursed his age. He could not readily put his lips into action. The red-faced man wore khaki clothes, evidently a policeman or a soldier. He said to himself, he will chase or shoot if I start running. Some dogs chase only those who run. Oh, Shiva, protect me. I don't know why this man should be after me. Meanwhile, the foreigner cried, marvelous, again, nodding his head. He paced around the statue with his eyes fixed on it. Munni sat frozen for a while and then fidgeted and tried to edge away. Now the other man suddenly pressed his palms together, smiled, and said, Namaste, how do you do? At which Munni spoke the only expressions he had learned, yes and no. Having exhausted his English vocabulary, he started in Tamil.
My name is Muni. These two goats are mine and no one can gainsay it. Though our village is full of slanderers these days who will not hesitate to say that what belongs to a man does not belong to him. The foreigner faithfully looked in the direction indicated by Muni's finger, gazed for it at a while, at the two goats and the rocks, and with a puzzled expression took out his silver cigarette case and lit a cigarette. Suddenly remembering the courtesy of season, he asked, "Do you smoke?" Munni answered, "Yes, no." Whereupon the red-faced man took a cigarette and gave it to him. Munni gave it to Muni, who received it with a surprise, having had no offer of a smoke from anyone for years now. He had always wanted to smoke a cigarette. Only once he did. The shopman gave him on one credit, and he remembered how good it had tasted. The other flicked the lighter open and offered a light to Muni. Muni felt so confused about how to act that he blew on it and put it out. The other, puzzled but undaunted, flourished his lighter, presented it again, and lit Muni's cigarette. Muni drew a deep puff and started coughing. It was racking, no doubt, but extremely pleasant. When his cough subsided, he wiped his eyes and took stock of the situation, understanding that the other man was not an inquisitor of any kind. Yet, in order to make sure, he remained wary. No need to run away from a man who gave him such a potent smoke. His head was reeling from the effect of one of those strong cigarettes made with roasted tobacco, and the man said, "I come from New York," took out a wallet from his hip pocket and presented his card. Muni shrank away from the card. Perhaps he was trying to present a warrant and arrest him. Beware of the khaki, one part of his mind warned. Take all the cigarettes or whatever is offered, but don't get caught. Beware of khaki. He wished he weren't 70, as the shopman has said. At 71, didn't run, but surrendered to what came. He could only ward off trouble by talk. So he went on, all in the chest Tamil, for which Pritam was famous. He said, "Before God, Sir Bhagwan, who sees everything, I tell you, sir, that we have known nothing of the case. If the murder was committed, whoever did it will not escape. Bhagwan is seeing all. Don't ask me about it, I know nothing." A body had found, mutilated and thrown under a tamarind tree at the border between Pritam and Kupam a few weeks before, giving rise to much gossip and speculation. Muni added an explanation. Anything is possible there. People over there will stop at nothing. The foreigner nodded his head and listened courteously, though he understood nothing. "I am sure you know when this horse was made," he said. Said the red man and smiled ingratiatingly. The Muni reacted to the relaxed atmosphere by smiling himself and pleaded, "Please go away, sir. I know nothing. I promise we will hold him for you if we see any bad character around."
कल ना बहुत नींद आ रही कल मैथ्स फटाफट जा रहा था बायो का टाइम ही नहीं था
Part on that.
I'm here.
अच्छा आकांक्षा आप लेना इधर आओगे तो अपना
Yes, ma'am, I'll come tomorrow.
क्या एक
मैं वॉशरूम गया हूँ नहीं चाहिए तो मेरा पेपर बहुत दिमाग से
बहुत अच्छा करना पड़ेगा
खाना भी प्लेसमेंट है प्लेसमेंट क्या पता लेकर बहुत
ज्वाइन किया था अपना टाइम हो गया था
लेके थोड़ी खुशी हो
पढ़ाई करो
अरे खुशी आ रहा है मैंने 15 into 6 क्या लिखा
मेंटली यार 15 into 4 याद रहता है ना 30 बस 6 तो मेरे को याद ही नहीं था
वेरी गुड कुछ भी ये गलत हो गया मेरा पॉइंट होता है
हाँ 10:9 पूछा था ना ऑप्शन ए था वो
कितना 18 सबको ऐसे हाफ हाफ में ही दिया
पढ़ के मैंने ये सब एग्जाम्स दिए भाई तुम लोग ने तो क्लासेस अटेंड किए शर्म
मैं जीएसटी के एंडिंग में आया था
हाँ तो मैं जीएसटी बैंक की खत्म होने के लिए चालू हो गया था
2 मार्क्स
कम लिखा रहेगा दिया ही नहीं रहेगा ये 2 मार्क्स इधर है
पढ़ाई करनी शुरू करो
वो पढ़ के ही नहीं आया
फायदा क्या इतने पैसे करे हैं पढ़ाई
वो बाहर गया था
तो बाहर ही वो फिर भी पढ़ता है तुम में से बहुत आप सब लोग ऐसे बड़े पढ़ने
मैम आज का उस टीचर सुबह के डॉक्यूमेंट के बाद पीएचसी आया मैंने पीएचसी नहीं दिया था मैक्सिमम सीएचसी Because aliens human beings are max. I'm a human. This is how I say.
ए ऑप्शन देखना अरे फॉरेस्ट वो अगर पहले ए ऑप्शन आगे करेक्ट
क्या कर रहे हैं?
अक्षर
Yes.
आप खाना खा के अपने बोलिए
Yes.
पहले 7 लिखा फिर मेरे को गलत गलत
मैं क्या बोला था तेरे को याद नहीं कोई बात
गलत हो गया
ए पूरा मैं
एक बात
इतने कम चला गया अभी तक नहीं है
वो गया होगा हाँ वो नीचे गया उससे बोलती है
अबे
मजाक करना चाहिए इतनी इज्जत है मेरे
जो भी No. Into 4. But they could really listen. एक दिन टीम भी है कैसे मैंने इसको दिया खाया तो इसने भी कितना हुआ 5.5 6 choice अभी तो कहाँ क्या था बे दुकान 12 क्या कौन सा ये कौन सा टिकट दुकान खोल के मेडिकल में गया था मैं नाम बदल दूंगा नाम निकलना सॉरी मेरा किधर का मेरे को मैथ का अटेम्प्ट नहीं फोटो इसमें 4 बार जल्दी करने के हमारे हाउस जल्दी
Which paper लिख के पता है? Who was reading?
शिव के पास शिव नहीं आगे होगा बहुत आगे चल वन बाय हाँ इंग्लिश
We will hold it if you see any bad letter around.
please go away
Third para.
चल शुरू
1 minute. Akanksha. Swastika. Parth. Soria. चलो नाश्ता वास्ता हो गया आ जाओ वीडियो पार्थ चतुर्वेदी वीडियो में रिमाइंडर भेज देना
आज to start video.
So Chaturita. No, that other guy. अब्बा नहीं मानेंगे नहीं
उसका मीम बनाना
वो रखने वाला
चतुर्वेदी नहीं कर रहा उसको रिक्वेस्ट भी किया
आकांक्षा ओके so that's for us
Mundi reacted to the relaxed atmosphere by smiling himself and pleaded, "Please go away, sir. I know nothing. I promise. We will hold him for you if we see any bad character around, and we will bury him up to his neck in a coconut pit if he tries to escape." But our village has always had a clean record. Must definitely be the other village. Now the red man implored, "Please, I will speak slowly. Please try to understand me. Can't you understand even a simple word of English? Everyone in this country seems to know English."
who is saying this
Everyone. I have gotten along with English everywhere in this country, but you don't speak it. Have you any religious or spiritual scruples against English speech? Scruples. Mundi made some indistinct sounds in his throat and shook his head. Encouraged the other, went on to explain at length, uttering each syllable with care and deliberation. Presently, he slided over and took a seat beside the old man, explaining, "You see, last August, We probably had the hottest summer in history, and I was working in shirt sleeves in my office on the 40th floor of the Empire State Building. We had a power failure one day, and there I was stuck for 4 hours, no elevator, no air conditioning. All the way in the train, I kept thinking, and the minute I reached home in Connecticut, I told my wife Ruth, we will visit India this winter. It's time to look at other civilizations. Next day, she called the travel agent first thing and told him to fix it. So here I am. Ruth came with me, but is staying back at Srinagar, and I am the one doing the rounds and joining her later. Mundi looked reflective at the end of this long oration and said rather feebly, yes, no, as a concession to the other's language and went on to Tamil. When I was this high, he indicated a foot high, and I had heard my uncle say, going on, no one can tell what he was planning to say, but as the other interrupted him at this stage to ask, boy, what is the secret of your teeth? How old are you? Munni forgot what he had started to say and remarked, sometimes we do lose our cattle. Jackals or cheetahs may sometimes carry them off, but sometimes it is just theft from over in the next village, and then we will know who has done it. A priest at the temple can see them in the camphor flame, the face of the thief. And when he spoke, he gestured with his hands, a perfect menacing of me. The American watched his hands intently and said, I know what you mean. Chop something? Maybe I'm holding you up and you want to chop wood? Where's your axe? Hand it to me and show me what to chop. I do enjoy it. You know, it's just a hobby. We get a lot of driftwood along the backwater near my house, and on Sundays I do nothing but chop wood for the fireplace. I really feel different when I watch the fire in the fireplace, although it may take all these extras of this of times to get a fire started. And he smiled at his reference. Munni felt totally confused, but decided the best thing would be to make an attempt to get away from this place. He tried to edge out, saying, must go home, and turned to go. The other seized his shoulder and said desperately, is there no way? Absolutely no one here to translate for me. He looked up and down the road, which was deserted in this hot afternoon. The strangers almost pinioned Muni's back to the statue and asked, isn't this statue yours? Why don't you sell it to me? The old man now understood the reference to the horse, thought for a second, and said in his own language, I was an urchin this high when I heard my grandfather explain this horse and warrior, and my grandfather himself was this high when he heard his grandfather, whose grandfather. The other man interrupted him. I don't want to seem to have stopped here for nothing. I will offer you a good price for this, he said, indicating the horse. He had concluded without the least doubt that Muni owned this mud horse. Perhaps he guessed by the way he sat on his pedestal. Its other souvenir sales in this country presiding over their ways. Muni followed the man's eyes and pointing fingers and dimly understood the subject matter and the feeling, and feeling relieved that the theme of the mutilated body had been abandoned at least for the time being, said again enthusiastically. I was this high when my grandfather told me about this horse and the warrior, and my grandfather was this high when he himself. The Tamil that Muni spoke was so stimulating, even as pure sound, and the foreigner listened with fascination. I wish I had my tape recorder here, he said, assuming the pleasant expression. Your language sounds wonderful. I get a kick out of every word you utter. Here, he indicated his ears, but you don't have to waste your breath in sales talk. I appreciate the article, but you don't have to explain its points. I never went to a school. In those days, only Brahmins went to school. But we had to go out and work on the fields, morning till night, from sowing to harvest time. And when Pongal came and we had cut the harvest, my father allowed me to go out and play with the others at the tank. So I don't know the Parangi language you speak. Even little fellows in your country probably speak the Parangi language. But here only learned men and officers know it. The foreigner laughed heartily, took another cigarette and offered it to Munni, who now smoked with ease, deciding to stay on if the fellow was going to be so good as to keep up his cigarette supply. The American now stood up on the pedestal in attitude of demonstration and said, running his finger along the carved decorations around the horse's neck, speaking slowly and uttering his words syllable by syllable. I could give a sales talk for this better than anyone else. This is a marvelous combination of yellow and indigo. Though faded now, how do you people of this country achieve these flaming colors? Muni now assured that the subject was still in the heart and not the dead body. Said, this is our guardian. It means death to our adversaries. At the end of Kali Yuga, this world and all the other worlds will be destroyed, and the Redeemer will come in the shape of a horse called Kalki. The horse will come to
We have to
life.
remember this story from the point of view of question answers. This is Muni's belief system about the horse.
This horse will come to life and gallop and trample down all bad men. When he was brooding on this pleasant vision, the foreigner utilized the pause to say, I assure you that this will have the best home in the USA. I'll push away the bookcase. You know I love books and I am a 5 book clubs. And the choice and bonus volumes mount up to a pile really in our living room, as high as this horse itself. But there have to go. Ruth may disapprove, but I will convince Munni. Continued his description, but I will convince. Munni continued his description of the end of the world. Our Pandit discoursed at the temple once how the oceans are going to close over the earth in a huge wave and swallow us. This horse will grow bigger than the biggest wave and carry on its back only the good people and the king into the floods of the evil ones. Plenty of them about, he said reflectively. Do you know when it's going to happen? He asked.
The foreigner now understood by the tone of the other that a question was being asked and said, I am not a millionaire, but a modest businessman. Modest? Middle class. Not very, very rich. Modest means mediocre. My trade is coffee. Put a box on coffee because here we are getting information about the foreigner. Amidst all this wilderness of obscure sound that is not understood because the foreigner is talking English and Munni doesn't understand English. Obscure sounds. Munni heard coffee and said, if you want to drink coffee, drive further up in the next town. They have Friday market and there they open coffee outlets. So I learned from passerbys. The foreigner said, I repeat, I am not a millionaire. Ours is a modest business. After all, we can't afford to buy more than 60 minutes of television time in a month. That is the ads. The ads that you see on the television, they are by the minute they are paid. तो अगर निर्मा की ad जो है जो कि 10 minutes की होती है, they are paying that much. रसना की ad जो है वो 8 minutes की होती है, so they are paying that much. And it is not paid by the 8 minutes. It is by how many minutes it will be shown in a month. So he is that big a merchant. He's buying 60 minutes of television time per month. That's actually a big amount. But he considers himself not a millionaire. So somewhere we get that he's humble also. He doesn't have this air about himself. Because as 2 extra questions, you are going to write character sketch of Munni and character sketch of foreigner.
Can you write homework on the other side of the book?
Character sketch of Munni, character sketch of foreigner. Visible?
No,
Visible?
Yes, ma'am, visible.
हटा दूं अब?
Ma'am, what does CS mean? I got disconnected.
Character sketch.
Okay, ma'am.
Munni and foreigner.
Okay, ma'am.
Continue. Yellow t-shirt horribly distracted us. Seriously. Yellow t-shirt and orange t-shirt. Next time से book लाओ. Book के अंदर अपना ध्यान दो. पेंसिल से कुछ अंडरलाइन करो, कुछ डब्बा डालो कि एग्जाम के लिए क्या रिक्वायर्ड होगा, because you are not able to hold your attention. Either you have already read the chapter or you are that type of character who gets distracted easily, you're not motivated enough for your exam. These are the only 2-3 reasons. So to get that focus, give yourself some task. कि you are going to put a box on every word that is an essential data of this chapter. तो वो task देने से क्या है, focus बना रहेगा. ये focus जरूरी है बेटा. How many times are you going to read this chapter again? I'm taking this time to read this chapter with you so that you don't have to waste time at home to again read the chapter to answer the questions. तब ना वो पूरा हफ्ता होमवर्क के लिए कम हो जाता है जब आप क्लास में अटेंशन नहीं करते हो. Because now to write the answers, to write the meanings of the word, again you have to read the chapter. Then it becomes a Herculean task. Hercules noun, Herculean adjective, Herculean task, something that is very very colossal. So यहाँ पर ध्यान दो ताकि ये वाला जो होमवर्क है जो कि ह्यूज है 183 to 195 है ये आप कर सको. ध्यान दोगे तो वो फटाफट होगा, नहीं तो फिर वहां फिर से टाइम देना पड़ेगा घर पे. तो अभी दे दो वो टाइम. ऑरेंज टी शर्ट अगेन डिस्ट्रैक्टेड. देख लो ना, देख लो वो क्या कर रहा है. पेपर को गोल करके उसके अंदर से मुझे देख रहा है. हाँ नहीं वो आंसर्स अच्छे से लिखता है, होमवर्क अच्छे से करके आता है, उसका काम देखो कितना नीट है. So passerbys. The foreigner said, I repeat, I am not a millionaire. Ours is a modest business after all. We can't afford to buy more than 60 minutes of TV time in a month, which works out to 2 minutes a day. That's all. Although in the course of time, we'll maybe sponsor a 1-hour show regularly if our sales graph continues to grow up. Thorough businessman. See, I'm giving you points for your character sketch. फिर कल आके मत बोलना, कल नहीं, अगले हफ्ते. मैम कैरेक्टर स्केच के लिए क्या लिखना था हमको तो समझा ही नहीं. मैं ऑलरेडी आपको 2 पॉइंट्स कॉर्नर के लिए दे चुकी हूँ क्योंकि मुन्नी के लिए यू हैव सफिशिएंट पॉइंट्स. मैं भी आपको दे रही हूँ. यू नीड टू मेक अ नोट ऑफ इट कि कैरेक्टर स्केच के लिए 2 पॉइंट, हमको 5 ही पॉइंट्स चाहिए. पर हर एक एडजेक्टिव जो आप उस कैरेक्टर को अलॉट कर रहे हो, यू हैव टू गिव रीजन, जस्टिफिकेशन ऑफ व्हाट हैपेंड इन द चैप्टर. पार्थ तू लेट गया. अब बता तो रही वही 5 adjective with a justification of why you are attributing that adjective to this character with what has happened in the chapter. So basically you will get nearly 4 lines per adjective. So it becomes 20 lines, one sheet. Then the visitor. So sometimes the visitor is called foreigner, sometimes visitor. Yes. क्योंकि आपको कुछ तो प्रैक्टिस एक्सरसाइज है, कुछ सॉल्व क्वेश्चन आंसर्स है और उसके बाद प्रैक्टिस एक्सरसाइज है. सो जो पैसेजेस पहले दिए हुए हैं 183 onwards, that you will do in the module volume. Then solved examples you will go through. Ideally you should go through the solved examples first. तो आपको recap भी होता है, आंसर फॉर्मेशन में भी हेल्प होता है. Then you start doing page 183 in the textbook itself. Word meanings, then question answers. Then after that you do the practice exercise in the question. Foreigner, that's what I was saying when I got interrupted. Sometimes the foreigner is called visitor, sometimes the foreigner is called red man, because basically they are so fair, white man होते हैं, but यहाँ पर जब धूप में होते हैं तो उनका फेस रेड हो जाता है, not tanning की वजह से, धूप की वजह से. So red man, white man, foreigner, visitor, सब एक ही. Then the visitor, feeling that he had spent too much time already, said, tell me, will you accept 100 rupees for the box? You need to remember this data. The money offered for 100 rupees or not for the horse. I'd love to take the whiskered soldier also. Who is the whiskered soldier?
The warrior.
The warrior from the horse. Now comes my beautiful drawing. Stigmat warrior. Tell me, will you accept 100 rupees on the horse? I'd love to take a whiskered soldier also, but no space for him this year. Space where? To carry him. I'll have to cancel my air ticket and take a boat home. Because by air you cannot carry the horse, it will become too expensive. So boat se easier ho jayega, I suppose. Ruth, put a box. Who is that? Can go by air if she likes, but I will go with the horse and keep him in my cabin all the way if necessary. Which cabin? शिप के अंदर आपको जो रूम अलॉटेड होता है उसको कैबिन बोलते हैं. And he smiled at the picture of himself voyaging across the seas, hugging his horse. He added, I will have to pad it with straw so that it doesn't break. Line का मतलब pad of it with the straw. अरे इसके ऊपर अगर मैं एक कॉटन वॉटन चाट के इसको सेलो टेप कर दूंगी ताकि ये प्रोटेक्टेड रहेगा, टूटेगा नहीं. पैड.
New product line which comes from Amazon.
Bubble wrap. I had my station wagon used as you see. I can push the seat back and take the horse in. If you like, just lend me a hand with it. Station wagon is a star. इसीलिए वैगनआर एक गाड़ी का नाम है. His car is like a gypsy actually. It's an open jeep. Lend me a hand and I can lift up the horse from its pedestal after picking out the cement at the joints. The feet are joined to the pedestal by cement, so I'll pick that out. And generally foreigners are quite handy men. They do the plumbing, electrician, telephone wire on their own in their house. आपको भी करना चाहिए. Soon India is headed there. I can lift up the horse from its pedestal after picking out the cement at its joint. We can do anything if we have a basis of understanding. He's talking about the handyman thing. एक कारपेंटर को बुलाना हर चीज के लिए जरूरी नहीं है. हम इंडिया का आग बंद करके कुछ खराब है, बुलाओ रिपेयर मैन को बुलाओ. अरे पहले खुद तो एक दफे अटेम्प्ट कर लो. Because फॉरेन कंट्री में एक मिनिमम वेज अलॉटेड होता है, तो आपको उतना मिनिमम देना ही है. जैसे हमारा सीमेंस का टेक्नीशियन बोलता है ना, घर आऊंगा मशीन को हाथ लगाने का 1000 रुपए लूंगा, उसके बाद रिपेयर आप कराओ नहीं कराओ, कोई पार्ट लेना पड़े नहीं लेना पड़े वो अलग. घर आऊंगा तो 1000 रुपए मिनिमम लूंगा. Like that it is there foreign country. At this stage, the mutual mystification was complete. Mutual misunderstanding of what each other is saying. Underline mutual mystification and write both misunderstanding each other's dialogues. Each other.
Can you tell the page number? I got disconnected.
64. Akanksha, you are Swastika, you are getting really disconnected. Do something about it next time onwards. कौन बोल रहा है मैम? हाँ हाँ, आज करके मुंडी छुपा लिया तेरे पीछे. ओ शर्मिल है. क्या पूछ रहा है? किस चीज का? Both misunderstanding each other's dialogues. At this stage, the mutual mystification was complete and there was no need even to carry on a guessing game at the meaning of the words. The old man chatted away in a spirit of balancing of the credits and debits of conversational exchange and said, in order to be on the credit side, "Oh, honorable one, I hope God has blessed you with numerous progenies, children." Progeny. जल्दी आओ. पेट छूट गया था, right? Progeny. I say this because you seem to be a good man, willing to stay beside an old man and talk to him. While all day I have none to talk to except when somebody stops by to ask for a piece of tobacco. But I seldom, rarely, not often. Tobacco is not what it used to be at one time, and I have given up chewing tobacco. क्या बोलते हैं? सुपारी. गुटखा. I cannot afford it nowadays. Nothing the others interest in his speech. Munni felt encouraged to ask, "How many children have you?" With appropriate gestures with his hand, realizing that a question was being asked, the red man replied, "I said 100, because he must have done this, na? Which encouraged Munni to go into details. How many of your children are boys and how many are girls? Where are they? Is your daughter married? Is it difficult to find a son-in-law in your country also? Son-in-law कौन होता है? Daughter's husband. In answer to these questions, the red man dashed his hand into his pocket and brought forth his wallet purse in order to take immediate advantage of the bearish trend in the market. Now, share market में एक bear होता है, एक bull होता है. तो bear is when your share is running into profit. Bull is when your share is running into yours. Write the meaning. Yes, but now bearish मतलब he is in profit. तो मतलब यहाँ पर जो cost है वो गिर गई है तो he is in profit. Meaning लिखो. नहीं कोई लिखो.
Supply and demand.
I would like you to shoot the later side. Shall we continue? He flourished a 100 rupee currency note and said, "Well, this is what I meant." क्या रिएक्शन आया होगा मुन्नी का 100 रुपए का नोट लेकर वो चवन्नी को तरस गया है बंदा. The old man now realized that some financial element was entering their talk. Old man is he peered closely, peered means looked closely at the currency note, the like of which he had never seen in his life. जिंदगी में उसने 100 रुपए का नोट नहीं देखा है. He knew the 5 and 10 by their colors, although always in other people's hands, while his own earning at any time was in coppers and nickels. Chavanni, Athanni, 1 rupee coin, 5 rupee coin में deal किया है. This is like he's seeing a 1 lakh rupee का note ऐसा 100 rupees. नहीं देखा ना वो तो होता है. What was this man flourishing the note for? अब वो मुद्दे पे आ रहा है. For what is this man showing me the money? क्योंकि अभी तक तो उसने कुछ और ही समझा है. Perhaps asking for change. He laughed to himself at the notion of anyone coming to him for asking 1,000 rupee note. उसको नहीं पता ये 100 है. वो सोच रहा है 1,000, 10,000. तब होते थे 1,000 rupee note, 10,000 rupee note. He said with a grin. Grin is a broad smile. Ask our village headman, who is also a money lender like Shiloh. He can change even 1,00,000 of rupees into gold souvenirs if you prefer in that way. He thinks nobody knows, but dig the floor of his puja room and your head will reel dizzy at the sight of the hoard collection. Hoard collection. तू साथ साथ में कुछ बोलते मत जा भाई, मैं डिस्ट्रैक्ट होती हूँ. मेरी कोई prepared speech नहीं है. Don't distract me like this. The man disguises himself in rags, torn clothes, just to mislead the public. Talk to the headman yourself because he goes mad at the sight of me. Someone took away his pumpkins with the creeper and he for some reason thinks it was my goats. That's why I never let my goats be seen anywhere near the farms. His eyes travel to his goats, nosing up. You know how they touch the grass with their nose and then they nibble it, nosing about, attempting to wrest nutrition from minute greenery peeping out of rock and dry earth. मुन्नी अपनी 2 goats को लेकर भी आया तो ऐसी जगह जहाँ पे abundance of grass भी नहीं है. The foreigner followed his looks and decided it would be a sound policy to show an interest in the old man's pets. He went up casually to them and stroked their backs with very show of courteous attention. Now the truth dawned upon the old man, Munni. His dream of a lifetime was about to be realized. He understood that the red man was actually making an offer for the goats. Munni is understanding that the foreigner wants to buy his goats. Is that the case? No. What does he want to buy? He had reared them up in the hope of selling them someday, and with the capital, opening a small shop. Capital means with the amount. Opening a small shop on this very spot at the highway near the horse. Sitting here, watching towards the hill, he had often dreamt how he would put up a thatched roof, a roof that is made of dry hair, thatched roof, spread a gunny sack on the ground, bony, and display on it fried nuts, colored sweets, green coconut for the thirsty, and famished wave hearers on the highway. Green coconut is nothing but coconut water. Underline green coconut and write coconut water.
I cannot find the word now.
Famished. Famished means hungry and thirsty. Famished means hungry and thirsty. Shall you come out and read?
You can search it up on Google on their phone.
Come out and read. Who has books? Raise your hand. Black t-shirt, complete. The animals were not prize ones for a cattle show, but he had spent his occasional savings to provide them some fancy diet now and then, and they did not look too bad.
While he was reflecting, just the red man shook his head and left on his palm 100 rupees in tens now. Suddenly realizing that this was what the old man was asking. It is all for you, or you may share it if you have a partner. The old man pointed at the station wagon and asked, "Are you carrying them off in that?" "Yes, of course," said the other, understanding the transportation part of it. The old man said, This will be their first ride in a motor car. Carry them off after I get out the side. Otherwise, they will never follow you, but only me, even if I'm traveling on the part of Yamalota. He laughed at his own joke, brought his palm together in a salute, turned around and went off, and was soon out of the sight beyond the jump of thicket. The red man looked at the goats grazing peacefully, perched at the pedestal of the horse as the westerly sun touched off the ancient faded colors of the statue with a fresh splendor. He ruminated, he must be gone to fetch some help, I suppose, and settled down to wait. When a truck came downhill, he stopped it and got the help of the couple of men to detach the horse from his pedestal and place it in a station with him. He gave them 5 rupees each, and for further payment, this siphoned off gas from the truck and helped him to start his engine. Munni hurried homeward with the cash securely tucked away at his waist in his dhoti. He shut the street door and stole up softly to his wife as he squatted before the lit oven, wondering if by a miracle food would drop from the sky. Munni displayed his fortune for the day. She snatched the notes from his, counted them by the glow of the fire, and cried, 100 rupees. How did you come by it? Have you been stealing? I have sold our goats to a red-faced man who was absolutely crazy to have them, gave me all his money and carried them off in his motor car. Hardly had these words left his lips when they heard leaping outside. She opened the door and saw the 2 goats at her door. Here they are, she said. What's the meaning of all this? He muttered a great curse and seized one of his goats by its hair and shouted, Where is that man? Don't you know you are his? Why did he come back? The goat only wriggled in his grip. He asked the same question to the other 2. The goat shook itself off. His wife glared at him and declared, If you have teeth, the police will come tonight and break your bones. Don't involve me. I will go away to my parents. Yes.
Come back to this. Anything on your Everything clear? If not, go through the salt exercise. In the module, page number 183. 181. Sorry. Page number 181, beta. See if you need to ask me anything. Have clarity of the entire chapter. Right, 2 minutes later on top of page number 181.
We have to go into the word meanings.
Take out your module one, children. भाई जिनको ठंड लगती है स्वेटर पहन के आओ, जिनको गर्मी लगती है वो टी शर्ट में उतार सकते हो। Page number 1, essay writing, long composition. Write today's date of birth.
We have done this.
Have you done this? We had the sample narrative, the joy of the we did smells, sights, sounds.
Yes.
Discuss both sides of the argument. Yes. Start from story writing, page 11.
Last class you talked.
Page number 7, environment and pollution factual essay we read. And exhibition descriptive essay we read. You said to go through it. So page number 7, write today's date on top. Where it is written an exhibition, in brackets write descriptive, because this is an example of a descriptive essay. And where it is written essay number 2, environment and pollution, put in brackets factual, because this is an example of a factual essay. White t-shirt, come out and start reading an exhibition.
Second one is
Factual. First one. Any word you don't understand, please underline, we'll discuss it after the essay is over.
An exhibition is a place where beautiful, attractive, and artistic things that are arranged for public show. It has great commercial and educational value. Delhi has seen many such exhibitions like railway exhibition, post and telegraph exhibition, international exhibition, create friendly relations between various nations. As International Industrial Exhibition was arranged by the Indian government in Delhi. Last Saturday, I had a chance to visit this exhibition with some of my friends. At the booking window, there was a great rush, and each one wanted to purchase a ticket first. We requested a gentleman to purchase our tickets also, because he had 10th or 12th in the queue. Thus, we took the tickets and entered the queue. First of all, we saw a fountain just in front of the gate, and it was foaming. Then we selected to see the stalls of USA, Democratic Germany, Poland, Russia, China, and India, and made up our minds to see those stalls on the same day. First, we entered the US stall and saw a man who appeared to be just like a magician. He was showing us various wonderful things. He converted the sound waves produced by a gramophone into light waves and focused the light waves somewhere. Then, as he placed some obstacle in the ways of the light waves, so the gramophone stopped. In the same way, a moving train obeyed orders. He said the word stop and the train at once stopped. And when he said move forward, it obeyed. And when he said now move back, the train began to move back. In the US stall, there was a picture hall in which 300 persons could sit at a time. At a show, the principle of atomic structure was clearly explained. A magic hand was also a good thing. Then we entered the stalls of Democratic Germany. There the glassman was one of the interesting things. The Chinese stall was one of the best stalls. On the left of that stall, there was some machinery to which we did not pay much attention. But on the right, good crockery work was exhibited. There was also different kinds of fruits made of wax. They looked like real ones. My younger brother wanted to have some of them, but I told him that it was wax. Then we went to the polish stall. We did not take any interest there because there was nothing except large machines. So we did not waste any time there. It was 9:30 p.m. We were tired and did not want to see more. We decided to leave and come out of the exhibition area. Highly pleased with what we saw there, we returned home in a taxi. Done, ma'am. Any word not understood in the first passage?
It was simple language.
Glassman.
And third,
Now, not the prince. Third paragraph is last Saturday I had a chance to visit the exhibition. Then he selected to see the all the different government, Russia, China, Last the man makes glass. Have you not seen any photos? It's glass like this, and then it goes in a way. It's very amazing. See the import of glass objects. Yes, ma'am. You read today? No.
Pollution is the contamination of Earth's environment that contaminates and interferes with human health and ecosystem functioning. Environmental pollution may be natural or human. The natural pollution is caused by volcanoes, storms, floods, etc. While human-caused pollution is diversified. Most of the environment pollution is the result of human activities. Material that pollutes the environment is called pollutant and is either biodegradable or non-biodegradable. Air pollution is the addition of harmful substances in air that causes severe damage to the environment, human health, and quality of life. Air pollution is not a recent phenomenon. It dates back to the ancient times where it became a major problem only during Industrial Revolution. Since then, the capacity of atmosphere to absorb huge quantities of pollutant gases is decreasing day by day, and the atmosphere has been made a big dustbin of gaseous waste. Various human activities like industrialization, transportation, and use of pesticides and other chemicals have resulted in the release of many pollutants in the air. Natural activities like volcanic eruptions also release pollutant gases like sulfur dioxide, automobile exhaust, smoke, smog, and acid rain are some types of air pollution. Water is essential for all life forms. 71% of the Earth's surface is covered with water. More than 97% of the water is contained in the oceans, but marine water is saline and is is of little use to man. Remaining 3% water is fresh water that includes groundwater, rivers, lakes, etc. The groundwater is the major source of water for man, which makes only 0.6% of the total water of Earth. On the surface, it appears in the form of springs or is pumped out the tube wells. The contamination of water bodies like rivers, lakes, seas, etc. is called water pollution. Soil is a living system which, after combining with water, air, and sunlight, becomes capable of supporting plant life. The process of photosynthesis is necessary to support plant life because it converts sunlight into energy. Soil pollution refers to the building up of toxic chemical compounds, salts, radioactive materials, and disease-causing organisms, that is, pathogens. All these pollutants affect the plants and animals' life. Noise pollution refers to the exposure of ears to annoying and stressful sound, which may even damage the ears. The urban centers are becoming noisier with increasing industrial activity, transport, etc. Airplanes cause a lot of noise pollution. A normal jet engine produces sound around 10 decibels. Getting closer to it may produce 130 decibels of sound. Deafness or hearing loss is the major health problem associated with noise pollution.
You read very well. So I wanted to understand the difference in the treatment of a descriptive essay and a factual essay.
About argumentative essay, children are generally very clear that we want to give both the sides of the coin and then we want to state our opinion. These are the three broad things that are happening in an argumentative essay. What about factual and descriptive? How is it different? You know, the exercise is that we are doing all the essays so that you can find out which is your flair and you will settle down for that. In factual, it is almost like a textbook where you are giving information as a third party. आपका खुद का opinion कहीं पर आ ही नहीं रहा है. जबकि in a descriptive essay, it is more like you give little bit of introduction. Exhibition वाला फिर से इस critical mode से पढ़ना. Little bit of introduction, then you come down to I visited that place, and then you start narrating what you saw. How fascinated you were. Are you seeing a difference between factual and descriptive? Yes, ma'am. Now come to page number 40.
Ma'am, page number 40 or 40?
4040. 40.
Okay.
It's a comprehension passage. Next time onwards, we are going to start doing from total English. One passage we have to do. Right now, from the current latest edition of Total English, page number 22, question 4 is the first comprehension passage. You have to do that for homework. You have to be ready with this book next time onwards in front of you. If you have any other edition of Total English, then it will be some other page, but the first chapter will have one comprehension passage. The second chapter will have one comprehension passage. So there are 15 chapters. Within 15 sessions of us meeting together, you will have finished 15 comprehensions. Then you are ready for your paper. 90% marks are there. Yes. Someone was asking something, ma'am. Yes. To have a variation. Difference. एक Polish भी आया था. That Polish is not shoe ka polish. That is Polish. Poland ka lo. Poland नहीं होता. Page 40, write today's date. Through a comprehension, the teacher is trying to understand your comprehension skill. कि आप 2 पैराग्राफ जब रीड करते हो इंग्लिश का तो आपको उसमें से कितना समझ में आता है. Like you understand, if I give a 3rd standard child the Times of India, he will read the 2 paragraphs, he will understand perhaps only 7 words. उसको मतलब नहीं समझेगा वो 2 पैराग्राफ का, पर आपको समझेगा. So that is what I am trying to gauge through a comprehension passage. How ready are you with English language? तुमको अगर मैंने 2 पैराग्राफ की कोई रिपोर्ट दी है when you are working in a company, तो क्या आपको वो समझेगा? तो आपके आंसर में you have to show that मेरे को समझा. जब तुम comprehension passage में से 2 लाइन ऐसे उठाकर इधर चिपकाते हो ना, तो लगता है इसको समझा नहीं, ये उठा के चिपका रहा है. थर्ड स्टैंडर्ड का बच्चा यही करेगा कि कुछ तो था इसके बारे में यहाँ पर, ये उठा के इधर डाल दिया. So you have to paraphrase your answer. Rewrite it in your own words. अगर तू कुशाग्र का आंसर कॉपी कर रहा है फिजिक्स का, तो तू थोड़ा सा उसमें हेरफेर करेगा ताकि फिजिक्स सर को पता नहीं लगे कि मैंने कॉपी किया है. जोर जान जुगाड़. तो नहीं, ट्रक ड्राइवर से ट्रक के बारे में बात करनी पड़ती है, स्टूडेंट से एग्जाम के बारे में बात करनी पड़ती है, तो समझता है. ओके.
Comprehension and summary writing. An unseen prose passage of about 450 words will be given. Comprehension. Uncommon items of vocabulary or structure will be avoided. One question will be set to test vocabulary. Candidates will be required to show an understanding of words.
Because of this question, module में जो इतना 150 words दिया हुआ है per chapter, that is very important. Because that is the only way I can prepare you for the vocabulary based question from your comprehension passage. वो लोग तो कोई भी passage देंगे. How I will prepare you? I'll have to actually take your vocabulary up. उसके लिए when we are reading the chapter, पेंसिल से अंडरलाइन करो, इसका मीनिंग लिखो, तो क्या दिमाग में मीनिंग रजिस्टर होता है? I cannot give you के next Monday you have test in word meanings, learn करके आना, you cannot do that. I cannot say dictionary read करके आना, मैं कोई भी पेज खोल के कोई भी word का meaning, I cannot do that. So through literature we are underlining the word, writing the meaning. In the module we are opening, we are writing the meaning of the word. तो दिमाग में अपने आप register होता है. Because passage में if there are 15 words that you don't understand, बहुत आपको passage समझ में आएगा नहीं. If there are 3 words you don't understand, और अभी भी 3 words होंगे जो आपको नहीं समझेगा, तो but you will understand the meaning of the passage. But if it is 15 words, आपको passage समझेगा नहीं. It's like watching a French movie.
Comprehension. Uncommon items of vocabulary or structure will be avoided. One question will be set to test vocabulary. Candidates will be required to show an understanding of words or phrases in the context in which they have been used. A number of questions requiring short answers will also be asked on the passage. These questions These questions will be test the candidate's ability to comprehend the explicit content and organization of the passage and to infer information, intention, and attitude from it. The last question will consist of a summary. A summary is a shortened form of original prose passage written in one's word with a certain word limit and according to particular instructions. It trains you to distinguish main ideas from supporting details and to express salient points to re-express them. Such skill is very useful since the fast pace of life today requires one to be concise. How to write a summary? Read the instructions. Make sure of what you are asked to do. Read the passage through for a general idea of its content. You may not be able to make sense of it immediately. Get a general idea. Read again the passage carefully against the background of the question. Note down the relevant point. Read the passage quickly to ensure that all essential facts are included. Avoid any comments of your own. Write your first draft using your own words. You may find it helpful to write 6 words a line spread across the page. It will help you to note the number of words. Write in the reported speech in bracket in past tense most of the time. After checking a draft, write your final copy. Read it carefully to ensure that there are no errors. The length of summary, unless otherwise stated, is about 1/3 of the passage. Suitable title. The title of the summary indicates the theme of the passage. It could be expressed in the word, phrase, or clause.
The précis writing is an important part of your question paper, and it will only come through practice. Already we have done the one comprehension passage that is given in the volume.
Yes, from the parts.
We have already done it.
Yes.
Anyone who has not done it, please do it for homework. Obviously, it was a prior homework. Either you did not have your module or you joined in late. I don't know. We have as per finished it. So there is one comprehension passage in the volume. Do it in addition to the first passage of total English. Okay. Now let's. Yes. Yes. Now we are moving on to grammar. जो ग्रामर टॉपिक्स वॉल्यूम के इंडेक्स में दिया हुआ है, any grammar topic from there which has already been done in your school. Active and passive are finished. Is it not? Next time से पढ़ना पड़ेगा. इसको गर्मी लग रही लास्ट में.
तो इधर ठंडी लग रही है तो फैन है.
I would suggest, those of you who are interested, there are some solved examples here. So at your own liberty, you solve the comprehension passage, ignore the answers and solve it. Do the word meaning also, the question answer also, and most importantly, the précis also. And then you yourself check your work. कि मैंने कितना सही किया, कितना गलत किया. Because I know all of you need practice in comprehension. I rarely have a student who gets 10 out of 10 in the passage. You lose 1 or 2 marks there. Yes, what are you asking? Wow, where your ID? I'm wondering actually what we have done or not.
Okay, I haven't started grammar.
Page number 67. Chalo, sit straight, backbone straight, chin up, hold your hands. I'm writing a sentence something like the cat ate the mouse. Oh, bhai, parts देखो दिख रहा है?
Yeah, ma'am, we can
Sorry,
see it.
visible? Try to understand, children. Hold your hands. थोड़ा सा बेसिक से स्टार्ट करेंगे क्योंकि तुम लोग ऑनलाइन, मैंने ऑनलाइन वाला जोक बताया था नहीं, एक बंदा इंटरव्यू के लिए गया, ठीक है, तो उसने बीएससी की हुई थी, ग्रेजुएशन इन साइंस. हाँ, तो इंटरव्यूअर ने पूछा लॉ ऑफ मोशन स्टेट कीजिए, बेसिक क्वेश्चन है साइंस का, बंदे को नहीं पता. बंदा पूछता है ओ भाई तुम कैसे इंटरव्यूअर हो, मैं बोल रहा हूँ मैंने साइंस में ग्रेजुएशन किया, तुम लॉ के क्वेश्चन. तो बंदा बोला ये तू ऑनलाइन ग्रेजुएट किया है ना, ठीक है समझ गया. सो थोड़ा सा बेसिक से स्टार्ट करेंगे. अभी जब तुम लोग ने मेरे को आइडिया दिया कि स्कूल में कोई ग्रामर हो ही नहीं रहा है, तो अंडरस्टैंड नाउ. The cat ate the mouse. इसका मीनिंग तो समझा? What is the verb? Cat बोल रहा है, cat. इसीलिए तो मुझे बेसिक्स करना पड़ता है. I told sir I will need some time. Sir ये ऑनलाइन बच्चे हैं, ये 6th स्टैंडर्ड का बच्चा आके 10th में बैठा हुआ है. ऐसा मत करो. Eight is the verb. It's the action word. That is the action that is happening. What is the subject?
Cat.
Point to be noted, the action is being performed by the subject. ये जो eating का action था, ये cat ने किया है. Such a sentence is known to be active. अब कौन धुरंधर है जो इसको पैसिव कर सकता है, पहले मुझे हैंड रेज करके बताओ. Yes, Akanksha.
Ma'am.
Ma'am, the mouse has been eaten by the cat.
Ma'am, the mouse is eaten by the cat.
And the mouse was being eaten by the mouse. The mouse had been eaten by the cat. The mouse
Was eaten is right. It is very important to maintain the tense. Simple past tense will become present past perfect tense. Was eaten.
Ma'am, the mouse had been eaten by the cat.
Wrong. It will become was eaten. Was eaten will become had been eaten. जैसे रिपोर्टेड स्पीच में हम 1 डिग्री ऑफ पास्ट बढ़ा देते हैं, सेंसिबल बॉय घर से हुडी लेकर आया था. गुड, स्मार्ट. आई एम कॉलिंग यू स्मार्ट. मैं पीछे Now some online students make the mistake of the mouse Was eaten by the cat. This is right. But if you say the cat was eaten by the mouse, तो आप meaning change कर रहे हो. The point is the subject is becoming the object, but the action is still being performed by the object only. यहाँ पर ये subject को आपने change कर दिया और उसको आपने दे दिया कि the mouse is eating the cat. Practically impossible. So when we do this, the mouse was eaten by the cat. This becomes my passive sentence because the subject is not performing the verb. So technically इस चीज को understand कर लो कि subject is performing the verb, subject is not performing the verb. This is active passive. अब बाकी आपको assertive, negative, interrogative and exclamatory ये 4 sentences का orders का क्या होता है imperative ये 5 sentences का active to passive and passive to active करने का आपका 10th standard का syllabus है. ये इतना basic sentence नहीं आएगा एग्जाम में पर ये आपको समझना जरूरी है. You cannot climb 5 steps at one time, you will fall. You have to take one step at a time. तो आप खुद judgment call लो. If you are not already there for active passive, पहले आप total English का active passive जो है उसको solve करो. So you solve your active passive from any grammar book. First, get yourself here where you are able to convert simple sentences from active to passive, passive to active. उसके बाद module खोलो और उसमें जो 30 sentences है, solved example को भी exercise की तरह करो और practice exercise को भी exercise की तरह करो. Solved exercise, do it in a grammar form, in a oral format. दिमाग में आंसर फॉर्म करो और आंसर कंपेयर करो. Am I there? Good judgment लो. Am I there? Am I able to solve? If you think you're not able to solve, पहले घर जाके active passive की grammar exercise practice करो. फिर practice exercise को in a written format English tuition book में करो. So open to page number 67. What I have just finished explaining, they are explaining in more details. Go through that. See that you understand how to attack a question, how to attack an imperative. Imperative is an order. Bring me a glass of water. इसका passive कैसे होगा? Bring me a glass. तो तुक्के उक्के मत मारो.
Glass of water.
तुक्के उक्के मत मारो. दूसरों ना 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 don't feed rubbish into the heads of other people sitting here. बुक में देखो कि imperative sentence को कैसे अटैक करना है, question sentence को कैसे अटैक करना है, because you have not done this in the past 2 years. This is a new inclusion. 3 years. 3 actually 3. मैंने 6 बोला तुम 7 बोला. मैं 7 बोलूं. Read through the 3 pages that are given. I can see the children who are doing it sincerely. They will understand the topic. I can see the children who are getting distracted. They will not be able to do the practice exercise. So understand it now. कुछ नहीं समझ रहा तो अभी पूछो. मैं भी ऐसे कैसे हो गया? Understand करो कहाँ subject जो है वो work कर रहा है और कहाँ हमने subject को push कर दिया object में, पर फिर भी action वही कर रहा है. By is your keyword. जहाँ by आता है वहाँ passive होता है. पर कभी-कभी by understood होता है. जैसे हम बोलते हैं the thief was caught. पड़ोसी थोड़ी पकड़ेगा. स्कूल की टीचर थोड़ी पकड़ेगी. पुलिस ही पकड़ेगा. So active में it is the cop caught the thief. But passive में it is simply the thief was caught. So in exam when you have a sentence like the thief was caught converted into active, the cop the police, the inspector, ये आपको फैब्रिकेट करना है. इतना सेंस होना चाहिए. थीफ के लिए कॉप पकड़ेगा ये आपको पता है. ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो आपको पता होनी चाहिए. कहाँ मैकेनिक आएगा, कहाँ प्लम्बर आएगा, कहाँ कारपेंटर आएगा, कहाँ मेसन आएगा, ये आपको पता होना चाहिए. They are expecting you to have this much knowledge of vocabulary. The wall was built. Active. By तो पैसे भी है. इसको मैं एक्टिव करने बोल.
The builder built the wall.
Wrong. The mason built the mason built the wall. The builder builds buildings. The building was designed beautifully.
The architect designed the building.
Getting it? So this is one type of sentence which is asked in the exam. You need to know chef कहाँ आएगा, कुकिंग के लिए आएगा, टीचर कहाँ आएगा, डायरेक्टर कहाँ आएगा, ड्राइवर कहाँ आएगा. Because वो बाय आपको दिया नहीं गया होगा. You have to fabricate. अब ऐसे there are 15 other sentences which are hot favorite. Teacher knows. ये 15 में से मेरे को एक पूछना है. The art is for you to understand.
Artist.
Solid example जब आप देखोगे तो आप खुद critically देखो ये exact point of view से question बराबर लग रहा है.
I'm bringing the class of water can be next. The glass of water was brought by him from.
Whenever you're doing grammar, you hear the sentence. Let the glass of water be brought for me by you. पता नहीं लग रहा.
बहुत अजीब लग रहा है.
मतलब तुम बोलते टाइम ऐसा बोलते हो क्या?
You bring the water of glass.
Bring the glass of water.
Let the glass of water be brought to me. By you.
You would be my sticks.
Let the solid examples.
Can it be the glass of water was brought by the servant? The glass of water was brought by the servant. So it's the active like the servant brought the glass of water. It is not bring me a glass of water.
Bring the glass of water towards the glass of water was
So it's the active hoga, you brought the glass of water. This is not bring me a glass of water.
bring the glass.
कर देंगे तो ग्रांट मार्क्स ऐसे कटिंग करोगे तो हम मार्क्स भी कट कर देंगे फिर ऐसे
बच्चे से बड़ा
So start doing the solved example as an oral exercise. Cover the answers.
That is for you to start.
Once a glass of water was brought to me.
Should you will use should. For all imperative should. A glass of water should be brought by.
मैम आपने बोला bring me a glass. Bring glass of water was the word. And can you mention me a glass of
Okay. Now, if you have started solving the solved example like some dedicated children are, So what happens is sometimes you have a sentence. Aja, 2 class le le aja. Come. You have more than me to say. Come. एक की सेंटेंस होता है आपका जैसे ये है the cat ate the mouse which was hiding in the hole of the building which was in the rat hole who was eating a piece of cheese तो क्या वो एक टैगलाइन होता है at the end of the sentence understanding Akanksha so who was eating a cheese hiding in the hole of the building so you have 2 taglines. So while you are converting it, those 2 taglines can be interchanged. It's okay. You can begin with the tagline, the mouse who was eating a piece of cheese while hiding in the hole of the building was eaten by the cat is fine. The mouse who was hiding in the rat hole while eating a piece of cheese was eaten by the cat is fine. Taglines exchange हो सकती हैं. It's fine. Teacher will grant it correct. Stop talking and start doing your work.
नंबर कुछ सेंटेंसेस ऐसे लगता है बिना कुछ गालियां तो बिना इंटरैक्ट किए वो पूरे कंप्लीट है हाँ
But you cannot miss out any information. If the question contains who was hiding, तो आपके आंसर में भी who was hiding आना पड़ेगा. You cannot cut it out. Marks will not be granted. And for a question, for the grammar question, it is no half mark allotment, either 1 or 0. ऐसा नहीं है कि आधा आंसर राइट है तो आधा मार्क दे दो. No, बोर्ड एग्जाम के प्रिस्क्रिप्शंस है. Any one word is also missing from the model answer. There will be 0 marks. Practice exercise before homework. It will be discussed next time.
Practice exercise.
Third year, was track its first Friday. Finally, counter. Football match was won by a the match has been won by
I use what instead of
Practice
See the question whether this work should be done in the textbook itself or it should be done in the tuition book is always the same answer. If you feel the space given in the textbook, in the volume is sufficient for your answer, go ahead and do it there. If you feel the space provided is insufficient, do it in your tuition book. So henceforth, never in your life ask me, ma'am, ये textbook में करना है, ये tuition book में करना है. It is your option, your decision. And stop talking to each other. So reading with lips moving. So I am assuming you have gone through the rules and you are clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Suddenly exam से पहले मैं फोन करके पूछना मैम मेरे को ये रूल नहीं समझा. मैं उनकी क्लास में क्या कर रहा था वो बैठाई थी ना. सो रहा था. नहीं मैम that day I was absent. That way तो every class one of the other person is absent. मतलब I have to do the entire syllabus twice then. have done tenses with you, wherein I explained all the 12 tenses. Take out your tissue. Practice exercise will be discussed next time. Will be discussed next time.
Ma'am, ma'am, the solved example, I was having a doubt.
Question number?
Ma'am, rewrite question number B, second one. This book has finally been printed. His answer is we have finally printed the book. So ma'am, can we write the publisher has finally printed the book?
Book has finally been printed. क्या हुआ? We have finally printed the book. Okay. Now, important point brought up by Akanksha. See, sometimes when the subject that we are assuming is one that we are fabricating, it is not given in the question. तो वो थोड़ा सा variation हो सकता है. We printed, they printed, the publishers printed, the owners, the director printed, the manager printed. So ये थोड़ा सा variation allowed है when we are fabricating. But obviously you cannot have the architect printed. You know, it has to be pertaining. It should be acceptable. Take out your tuition books.
Ma'am, are we starting tenses?
So much time is there. Take down your homework. Show me. बैठो मैं आऊंगी. Hello.
Ma'am, can you tilt the camera? I cannot see the homework.
Yeah.
Ma'am, still can't see.
Page number. Volume. Page number. Practice exercise PNP.
Practice exercise.
Understood. So can I come around to check 6 homeworks that you have written?
Yes.
7 कैसे?
6 है 6.
हाँ उसको भी वो एक का
वो horse and 2 board में included है, plus है ना यहाँ पे? Your homework. So write somewhere else there if I didn't bring notebook. Third standard? क्या? कितने मिनट की हो गया?
आपको इतना हंसी क्यों आता है? बढ़ते बढ़ते
तुम लोग पता नहीं क्या कर रहे थे?
अरे ये पीछे देख क्यों लड़का हंसी आती है?
ये
थोड़ा कम
क्या है? ये लोग ये मतलब हंस रहे थे। क्या करे?
क्या मजाक है? क्या तुझे भी नहीं पता?
ऐसे ही हंस रहे थे।
आगे हो गए।
इसके दोनों मेरे को ले लेते हैं।
एक अगर अपना आंसर शीट दे रहे मेरे को तेरे शीट पे अपना नाम लिख के लेके जा
इतना अच्छा है भाई इंग्लिश सिमेट्री
रिप्रेजेंटेटिव 3D 2D
और मैम का सिग्नेचर भी है भाई कौन सी टीचर का
ऐसा बुक चाहिए मेरे को
यस मैम कंप्यूटर प्रोजेक्ट तो करेगा नीलों का सिग्नेचर है सेवन का
बहुत ज्यादा लग रहा है पिछले बार से नहीं हुआ स्कूल चलते चलते मुझे
वैकेशन में मैम स्कूल का प्रोजेक्ट वर्क भी और इसका होमवर्क भी अलग से
अभी 10 साल में तो थोड़ा मेहनत करना पड़ेगा बेटा टाइम वेस्ट मत करो अपना दैट इज द इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग है ना रिलैक्स भी करो काम भी करो बाय बेटा बाय बेटा